Hello everybody and welcome back to another pointless top 10 compilation video. This one is all about stuff that could be added to player housing, or there might be some stuff that actually is already in player housing, but things like beds, fireplaces, chimneys, etc. So enjoy. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Pointless Top 10, a show where we make top 10 lists of pointless things. Why are we flying by a pointless statue in Booty Bay? Because inside pointless things are treasure. Let's begin. 10. Number 10 are the chimneys located at Bradensbrook Village in Valshara. And there's nothing really wacky about these chimneys. They're shaped a little off, but they are made out of brick. You know, these are like standard chimneys you'd probably see somewhere in Europe. And it looks like they're a bit worn down. They've got some rust on the metal parts. And this got me intrigued about the parts of a chimney. I was like, what are the parts of a chimney called? And dude, chimneys actually have so many parts, it kind of blew my mind. I was like, it's probably just like the tall part, the whatever. There's like the chimney flue, the liner, the cap, the flashing, the crown, the damper, the smoke chamber, and then there's like other parts, but these were just like the simplistic basic parts that I found on a website. I just never really thought chimneys were that complex, but I guess it makes sense because I mean, they're preventing house fires and like carbon monoxide from building up. So you probably would want some complexity in the structure that's doing those things. And you know what? The Bradensbrook chimneys are doing just that. And so that's why they're number 10. 9. Number 9 are the Dalaran chimneys, specifically the chimneys located in the forge areas. There's the one that's by the actual forge where you learn blacksmithing and stuff, and then there's one that's by the big demon forge, which was relevant in Legion, but is no longer relevant. And so each of these chimneys actually got pretty cool little designs on them. The one above the demon forge looks like it's got some weird bolts and some weird, I don't know what you would call these, like melding points or like points where the plates connect. I don't know what it is, but they look pretty cool and they've got little engravings on them. And this one actually reminds me more of a Dr. Seuss type of chimney. You know, it's all kind of wibbly wobbly. And then there's the main chimney, which is attached to the side of the building. And you can see it's this large chimney structure with more of what I was just talking about, the like plate connections and the designs, but on a much bigger scale, because obviously this chimney is like 4 times as big as the other chimney. And then it has a big, would this be the crown of the chimney or the top of the chimney, right? You got that little brick part. Yeah, I think it's the crown. I think I'm right. But yeah, I really like these chimneys. They're pretty unique. They're right next to each other, so I just put them together. And so that's why the Dalaran chimneys are number 9. 8. Number 8 are the human chimneys. And these are the chimneys that are just kind of located all around the human starting zone areas. So places like Elwyn Forest or Duskwood or Westfall or Red Ridge, right? A lot of these places have these styles of chimneys, and it's clear that these were probably some of the earliest chimney designs we've seen in World of Warcraft. And I think my favorite one out of all these is probably the human forge chimney, which is just a larger chimney that's square, and then you can see inside the grate at the top these flames that are kind of going on inside. So I think that's probably my favorite one. But the other ones are pretty cool as well. I mean, this big brick chimney attached to the Goldshire Inn, I think, is probably my second favorite. This other brick chimney at the Elwyn Forest houses looks kind of like the Bradenbrook one, but a little more outdated comparatively. And then the one in Westfall's got some curves going on, and then the smokestack part at the top's not really centered. It's like off to the side, so that's kind of a cool one. And you know what? I think at the end of the day, Santa would love to go down any of these chimneys, and so that's why they're number 8. 7. Number 7 is the chimney located in the starting area of the gnomes and dwarves in classic World of Warcraft Dun Morogh. And it's a bit of a weird chimney because if you look at it from the top down, you can see that there's snow in it, so it almost looks like it's clogged, but there is smoke coming out of it. So I mean, it is working, it is doing its job, but then if you look on the inside, you'll see that there is this big fire, and it's actually a really cool little fireplace area. And the smoke is rising up, but it's kind of blocked off. So it really feels like it was just a graphical limitation from back in the day. Maybe they couldn't have the chimney here opened up and people seeing in because it would create stress on computers. Like, there has to be something behind why they wouldn't just leave this area for the smoke to come out of opened, right? But no matter the case, this is a really cool chimney. It's a very cozy area up in the mountains and the snow everywhere. So I like it a lot, and that's why I decided to put it at number 7. 6. Number 6 are the metal goblin chimneys located in Everlook in Winterspring. And I like these for a few reasons, one of which is they're off to the side. You can see they kind of go off to the side and then curve up, and they almost look like a little mage tower. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, dude, it's like a little mage tower. You got the smoke coming out of it, but I don't really think they got any fires going on, because if you look in the buildings, there's not really any fire. So I was like, what are they? Is this like exhaust or something? And I think it is, because Obviously, it's goblins. They have a whole bunch of engineering power and, you know, they're probably burning fuel in some sort of way, maybe to keep the buildings warm because we are in winter, spring, it's cold, and maybe the walls are insulated with crazy mechanical engineering bits. Listen, I have no idea. I don't know how it works, but that's the only thing I could think of. And it also made me remember that not all chimneys are just for fireplaces, right? Like when I looked it up, it says a chimney is a ventilation structure made of masonry, clay, or metal that isolates hot, toxic exhaust gases or smoke produced by a boiler, stove, furnace, incinerator, or fireplace from human living areas, or I guess in this case, goblin. And so for all those reasons, that's why I put them at number 6. 5. Speaking of toxic exhaust gases, we've got this location in the Barrens. And so number 5 is a combination of these big oil devices as well as this large forge that's the similar forge to the one in Orgrimmar, but I found that out here as well, so I was like, hey, I could just combine these right together because they're right next to each other. And so unlike the gnome dwarf starting area chimney that we saw at number 7, this one actually does open up and you can see out into the world. Well, you can kind of see there's a bunch of flames and fire and smoke blocking, but you know, you can see for the most part. And then you've got these big goblin oil smokestack things, which almost look like horns. It looks like a really big horn that someone stuck into the ground, you know what I mean? And so these tall goblin chimneys are technically called smokestacks, and it's one of those things where all smokestacks are chimneys, but not all chimneys are smokestacks. It's kind of like the turtle and the tortoise type of thing, right? But really, I just think they're pretty cool, and that's why I decided to put them at number 5. 4. Number 4 are the chimneys located at numerous undead locations such as Tarn Mill, Brill, and the Undead Landing in Howling Fjord. And the pollution from these chimneys is actually coming from numerous cauldrons that just hang in the buildings for the undead, and you can see there's various colors of something in the cauldrons, and they're just releasing this steam or toxic fume or gas, whatever it is, it's floating up and then exiting the building out of this little chimney style structure that they have on the top of the building, which I guess would just be a chimney. I don't know why I said it's like it's a chimney style structure of sorts. It's like it's literally a chimney. I don't know why I'm saying that. Besides the point, I think this chimney's pretty cool, and they all have the same color smoke coming out of the chimney, which I wish they had like different colors out of each one, or maybe the colors would change. That would be kind of cool because of all the cauldron smoke. Maybe all the cauldron smoke is just combining to make a weird brown color. I have no idea, but I think it's pretty cool, and so that's why it's number 4. 3. Number 3 is the bamboo chimney located at the Storm Stout Brewery in the Valley of the Four Winds. And this is exactly what I was looking for from Pandaria, because I was looking all over and I was like, there's got to be some chimneys here, and I couldn't really find any, although maybe I just missed out. Maybe I completely missed a really cool one. If I did, let me know. But I saw this one and I was like, dude, it's a bamboo chimney. That's awesome. And so one of the cool parts is if you go inside the brewery, you can actually find where the chimney stems from. And it's this big, large barrel, and then it's got the top part, which is the chimney coming out of it, and it just goes right up into the roof. And that's it. That's where the chimney comes from. And I was curious as to what is actually coming out of the chimney. Like, is it just steam? Because that's like the only thing I could think of when you're making beer, right? And so it appears that you would fill a big brew kettle with a bunch of water and steep your grains, and then you bring those to a boil. And so that's the point where I think that's probably what's occurring here, is they're bringing the beer to a boil in this barrel. I guess, listen, I'm not a brew master, but that seems to be the only part of the process that I could find. If you're a brewmaster, let me know in the comments section, not just like a talent tree, but like an actual person that knows how to make beer. Let me know what you would think is coming out of this barrel. But whatever it is, the chimney's really cool, and so that's why the bamboo chimney is number 3. 2. Number 2 are the chimneys located in the Freywold village in the Isle of Dorn and Gundargaz in the Ringing Deeps, which sounds very much like it's out of Middle-earth. And I combined these chimneys because they are the exact same chimneys. They have the same structure, they have the same symbols, but they have different types of smoke coming out of them. The ones in the Ringing Deeps have this thick, heavy black smoke coming out of them, which you would expect from, you know, fireplaces and forges and stuff like that. But the ones in the Isle of Dorn have this whimsical sort of white mist steam smoke coming out of them, which I do think it looks cool, but they have a lot of similar fireplaces and stuff like that, so I'm confused as to why the smoke is different, you know what I mean? In fact, one of the chimneys that you can see right here is attached to this area where there's like nothing that would be creating that smoke, so unless it's the torch, but plenty of places have torches that don't need chimneys. But you know what? The chimney looks cool. And that's really the reason that I put them here. I think it's cool that these underground establishments have these chimneys that kind of just burrow up through the ground or in the mountains. And in the mountains, the smoke being different actually is kind of a pointless thing, so it fits perfectly into this list, and that's why I put them at number 2. 1. And number 1 are the Winterpelt Furbolg chimneys located in the Azure Span in the Dragon Isles. And when I did top 10 Furbolgs a few weeks back, I saw these chimneys and I was like, dude, this is going to be in pointless top 10 chimneys. And the more I thought about it, I was like, these are probably number 1. I'm a sucker for natural types of buildings, so the fact that the chimney is literally made out of the log that also makes the house, that like completely sold it for me. Now, I don't know how safe this chimney is. I don't know if it has flue liners or smoke chambers or clean out openings or spark arresters or chimney caps. It definitely doesn't have a chimney cap. However, doesn't matter. It looks cool and it gets the job done. You think these Furbolgs care about safety measures like flue liners and spark arresters? Nah, dude. If this burns down, they'll just go get another tree. Whatever. And it's also just a very cozy aesthetic, right? Like it's snow raining outside. You got all the snow on top of the roof, and then you've just got the smoke coming out of the chimney as they're all warmed up by the fire. And I'm sure they're warm inside. Can't actually see inside, but I'm sure they're very warm in there. And so it's just great. And that's why I had to put them at number 1. 10. Number 10 are the Sarok tents, and the Sarok tents are located on the Isle of Thunder. And if you don't know who the Sarok are, they are a race of lizard men created by the Mogu from the fauna of the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. And so these lizard creatures have created these lizard-esque types of tents. And I just think these tents are really cool. I was actually going to put these in pointless top 10 huts, but then I realized that they're not really huts, they're more of tents, which we'll get into that eventually, right? The intricacies and definitions of what makes a tent versus a hut versus all that type of stuff. And I was trying to figure out what these tents are actually made out of. Like at first I was like, are they just making these tents out of their own people? You know what I mean? Like it kind of looked like lizardy types of skin. So I was like, are they having their, you know, maybe their friends and family members or tribal members die, and then they're like, we'll make a tent out of your skin to honor you or something. But I was like, that wouldn't really make sense because these are like massive tents, and I doubt one small Sarok is going to be able to make this giant tent. But I don't know, maybe their skin stretches out really well, but that doesn't really make sense. And then I saw the big dinosaurs walking around and I was like, oh, it's clearly just dinosaur skin, which is still pretty insane. Like they're killing these giant dinosaurs and making tents out of them. Like that's pretty metal. So either way, that's why the Sarok tents on the Isle of Thunder are number 10. 9. Number 9 is the Vulparian Racial Tent, and the Vulparian Racial Tent is a tent that you create when you make a camp for your Vulparian, and then you're able to return to that camp at any point when you're not on a cooldown. And I wanted to put this on the list for a few reasons. Number 1 is, you know, it's a tent. It's a very basic tent. It's got some sticks. It's got some cloth. It's got a cool campfire outside. You got a little backpack and stuff. Like it's, you know, it's very basic. And sometimes the most basic, simplistic things are worth appreciating. But if this was just a normal tent without anything tied to it, I probably wouldn't put it on the list. My favorite part about this is what the actual Vulparian Racial is. And that is the ability to just make a campsite anywhere in the world and then be able to go there whenever you feel like it. Like to me, that is the best racial in World of Warcraft. I don't care what anybody says. It's just, it was perfect for mount farming, especially when you'd have to like go farm a specific dungeon or whatever it might be, your raid, and you could just set up your camp right outside and then you'd be like, oh, time to go farm that. And then boom, you just go right there. Like this is easily my favorite racial in World of Warcraft, even though I'm coming at it from like a mount farming roleplay perspective, not a really like meta game PvP, PvE perspective, right? But, you know, to each their own. And so that's why the Vulparian tent is number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Centaur tents, primarily located in the Barrens. They also have some in Desolus and wherever you would find Centaur, but I specifically always remember the Barrens ones, probably because they were the first ones you would run into when you were leveling a Horde character. And they actually have a wide variety of tents. They have small tents, they have medium-sized tents, they've got big tents, like they've got some pretty cool tents. And, you know, even though they are very old, like these are definitely 2004 World of Warcraft tents, like I think they still hold up pretty well. Quite literally. I mean, they've been standing for like 20 years or whatever, right? Oh, what a great joke. Sorry. But yeah, I think I appreciate these tents more out of nostalgia than anything because there's nothing too crazy about them, but I'll always remember these tents. And when I think of World of Warcraft tents, these are some of the first tents that come to mind. Like I said, I think just because I remember questing in the Barrens so much and I've probably been here hundreds of times, and so they just always pop into my head, and that's why the Centaur tents are number 8. 7. Number 7 are the Tauren tents, and I wanted to put these on the list because this is where I really wanted to get into what defines a tent. So The Taran tents are based off of the Native American tents called teepees, and these were specifically cone-shaped dwellings traditionally used by indigenous people of the Great Plains. Teepees were traditionally described as a lodge or a tent, and all of them are pretty much made out of animal skins stretched across wooden poles used for shelter. And so when I looked more into it, it appears that a tent is pretty much designed to be portable and collapsible. And so when I was looking at all of these, I was like, I guess a lot of these could be portable and collapsible, right? Like there's certain structures where you're like, I don't know how portable that would be, or maybe certain parts of it would be portable, but not other parts. In fact, I was trying to decide between the Tauren and the High Mountain Tauren for whose buildings I want to use for tents, but it felt like the actual Tauren buildings were more portable and tent-like, while the High Mountain Tauren felt a bit more like permanent structures. But no matter the case, I love the Tauren fabrics with all the different markings and paintings on them, and then all of the cool materials that they use, and I just think they're really cool. And out of all the lists that I could put them in, I think this is the most fitting for them. So that's why the Tauren tents, or teepees, are number 7. 6. Number 6 are the tents at the Argent Tournament. And I mean, how could we all forget about the Argent Tournament, one of everyone's favorite events in World of Warcraft history? However, whether you like the Argent Tournament or not, I think the actual tents and the tent buildings they have here are really cool. Like they have, you know, some basic tents all around. They're kind of just your standard tents. Some of the tents are like reused from Brewfest or Dark Moon Fair and stuff like that. But then there's actually these massive tent structures, like these tent buildings. They're almost like circus tents, right? And while I was researching, I learned that the Argent Tournament was originally supposed to reside in the Crystal Song Forest, but these plans were changed because it would have been too close to Dalaran, which ended up being a greater resource hog than Blizzard anticipated. And you know, I will say, going back and kind of looking through the Argent Tournament grounds and going into these big tent structures and all this stuff, I actually was kind of nostalgic for the Argent Tournament. Although then I saw the jousting and I was quickly reminded of how terrible the jousting stuff was. So everything else is pretty cool here, and especially the tents. And so that's why the Argent Tournament tents are number 6. 5. Number 5 are the Knoll tents, and the Knoll tents are located in Elwyn Forest, as well as places like Feralus, Westfall, and pretty much anywhere you can find gnolls. And I've talked about Knoll tents before back in Pointless Top 10 hidden faces in World of Warcraft, because there are human faces stitched into the Knoll tents. And if you go on the internet and search up like hidden things in World of Warcraft, this is probably one of the most searched things you'll find. It is just people being like, did you know that in the Knoll tents there's faces? Like at this point, I don't know who doesn't know that there's Knoll tents and faces. However, or wait, I just said they're putting Knoll tents in faces. I guess you know what? The Knolls have invented a way to put Knoll tents in faces. We're doomed. But anyway, I think that does make them very unique tents, right? Like people talk about them for a reason because it's kind of creepy. It's weird. But I mean, when you think about it, it's not that creepy to the Knolls. They're just doing what humans do, right? Humans make, you know, tents and shelters and stuff out of animal skins. The Knolls are just like, we'll just make tents out of human skin, right? But either way, that's why I had to put the Knoll tents on this list. And so that's why the Knoll tents are number 5. 4. Number 4 are the tents at the Dark Moon Fair. And I had to put the Dark Moon Fair tents on this list because, I mean, the Dark Moon Fair is pretty much comprised of tents. Almost every single building at the Dark Moon Fair is a tent. In fact, I think pretty much everything at the Dark Moon Fair can be taken down, because that's just the way carnivals work, right? I guess the hardest thing to take down would be the roller coaster, but I mean, listen, we're on Dark Moon Island. I doubt they're going anywhere at this point. I'm sure if they really had to, they could take down the roller coaster, but that's besides the point. The actual tents at the Dark Moon Fair are made up of green and purple fabric stitched together with this like yellowish brown rope, and it's pretty much every single tent has that type of aesthetic. There are some tents and the walls that are stitched together with purple and white fabric, so I guess, you know, they mix it up here and there, and then some of the really big tents have this yellow fabric, so they do have some variety, but I just felt like I had to put the Dark Moon Fair on the list. They have so many tents, so many varieties of tents, and I mean, they've had tents going all the way back to the start of World of Warcraft in like 2004, so that's why the Dark Moon Fair tents are number 4. 3. Number 3 are the Dragon Scale Expedition tents located in the Waking Shores. And there's actually 2 tents here that I wanted to show off. So the first one is this big white cream-colored tent that has Pepe up top guarding it in his little adventure outfit, and it's held up with these big wooden logs, and there's a bunch of rope and this fabric that you roll up, and it almost looks like when you roll up the fabric, it's like a sleeping bag or almost like a rolled up map, which I think really does give that adventure vibe. And then outside of that, there's actually a smaller version that's like a small tent with seemingly the same materials, but just, you know, a much smaller tent. And then we have these red Blood Elf tents that have big kind of golden red tapestry tapestries and, well, I don't actually know if they're Blood Elf tents, but they just feel very Blood Elf coded, you know what I mean? They have like a bunch of golden embroidery all over the place, and it very much feels like a Blood Elf tent. And to me, these are the tents that feel like they want to go camping in style, right? Like, they're not just going out for functionality. They're like, yo, we're going camping, but like, we're gonna look good doing it. And so yeah, all these tents are located at the same area, all under the Dragon Scale Expedition. So I was like, hey, you know what? Let's just put all of them on the list. And so that's why all of the Dragon Scale Expedition tents are number 3. Number 2 are the Forsaken tents, and there's quite a few Forsaken tents, especially in post-destroyed Undercity. So I saw this online and I was like, dude, where is this tent? And I flew all over the place looking for this tent and I couldn't find it. And then I realized you had to go to the destroyed Undercity area, Brill, where Brill has been, you know, decimated, and then they just have a bunch of tents set up. But some of these tents are so cool. Like this big tent is being held up with these chains, and there's really cool skulls and iron things all over the place, and the really cool purple fabric, drapery, whatever you want to call it. I just realized how bad I am at describing stuff. I'm just like, there's like iron and purple things. Luckily, I have the visuals for you to look at, so you know what I'm talking about. But if I had to describe this like normally, people would be like, what are you saying? But yeah, this is a really cool tent. It has the purple lanterns as well, which I like. And then there's also some smaller tents. There's like a smaller version, I think, of this tent. And then there's some weird looking tents. There's like half tents. And then there's like these umbrella tents. I don't even know who designed these, but you know, I guess they work, right? They've got like weird, like whoop whoop, which is, honestly, it's pretty good for repelling water and stuff, I guess. But either way, the Forsaken tents are really cool, especially the big main tent that I talked about first. So that's why the Forsaken tents are number 2. And number 1 are the Sethrak tents, and the Sethrak tents are located in Vol'dun, where the Sethrak are. And part of this might just be my bias of how much I like the Sethrak and want them to be a playable race, but I think they have some really cool tents. Like, this tent right here is probably my favorite tent. It's got all the different fabrics and stuff, but it has a Kralisk on the roof. So they've literally taken one of the Kralisk heads, which they ride around on as mounts and I guess used for various other things, and they put it on the tent as a roof, and it just looks really cool. They even painted the head with the same markings that are on the fabric. Then they have some other tents which are more basic tents or just like generic tent structures, but then I saw this really cool big blanket tent, and I have never seen anything like this in World of Warcraft. I think it's so cool. In fact, you know what? I think I lied. This may have been my favorite tent. So if you look at it, it almost looks like it's made out of snake skin or snake scales, and when you get close up, I mean, it might actually be, but it looks like they've just taken various pieces of fabric and like stitched them together to look like snake skin or snake scales. In fact, it almost looks like it is a snake opening its mouth to swallow you. Like, it's fantastic. And so this plus all of the other Sethrak tents made me want to put them at number 1, and that's why the Sethrak tents are number 1. Number 10 is the fireplace in the Horde Inn in Dalaran. It's a pretty cool fireplace, but it's almost like the Horde just took one of those big fire pits they have all over and just put it in a fireplace frame. You know what I mean? And then they just threw a big turkey over it. At least I think it's a turkey. Which, by the way, that is a massive turkey. Look at that thing. That thing is as big as like an orc. Maybe bigger than an orc. I want to see where those turkeys are in the game. Like, has anybody even seen those? I don't even know. Also, somebody like smashed that beer mug over there. Listen, they have some crazy times over here, but either way, I think, you know, it's an all right fireplace. You know, it's a makeshift fireplace, and that's why it's number 10. Number 9 is the Blue Recluse. Recluse? I don't know how you say it, but it has the only fireplace I found in Stormwind, unless I completely missed one, which is always possible. But the main inn didn't have a fireplace, which I was like, that's kind of weird. So then I found this one, and reading more about it, the Blue Recluse is a tavern in the Mage Quarter of Stormwind City, and apparently it's known around the world for its classy atmosphere. And while not being mentioned by the guards as being one of the most popular inns, it has the most reputation in the entire city. Many hunters come here for a drink, just like Hemet Nessingwary. He came here once and told a story to Flint Broadshot of how he found himself guarding 3 Frostsaber cubs from unscrupulous human hunters in Winterspring, which earned him his fame. Thazari, I don't even know. The first Death Knight to rejoin the Alliance also came here to have an ale as soon as he spoke with King Varian. So wow, look at that. Everybody coming to this inn or this tavern to have a drink. Although they're serving up, I guess, rotten meat, apparently. With all the flies flying around it. Also, the fireplace doesn't have a chimney. It's walled off. So maybe everybody's like coming here and having a good time, but they're just getting high off carbon monoxide fumes. Who knows? Either way, that's number 9. Number 8 is the Roasted Ram fireplace, which is the tavern in Valdrakken that you've probably been inside since, you know, it's new, it's Dragonflight, all that stuff. Unless you're watching this years from now, in which case it's not new. But I think the cool part about this is, I don't know if that's actually ram that's being roasted. I would assume that it is because the name. But it's a different type of fireplace. It's almost like a fire pit, and there's like magical elements involved. You know what I mean? Like the actual hunk of meat is like floating up and down. You've got the 2 swirling halos of fire kind of helping to roast the meat in different spots as it floats. And then you've got the fire pit down below it. And then the actual framing of the fireplace, which is really cool. It's this giant, you know, kind of dragon mouth looking thing, because you get the 2 teeth by the panda chef right there. At least I think they're teeth, I would imagine, because, you know, dragons. So I just said imagine dragon. Okay, I'm sorry. Either way, I think this is a cool fire pit place, whatever you want to call it. But having said all that, I do think this fireplace is a little too unconventional or simplistic for me. I don't know why. It feels that way. I mean, maybe on someone else's list this would be higher, but I was like, hey, you know what? I think, you know, I think this is, you know, probably around 7 or 8. So I decided to put it at 8. And, you know, it's still a good fireplace, don't get me wrong, but I think there are some better ones. So that's number 8. 7. Number 7 is the fireplace in the Alliance Garrison. One of the good things to actually come from garrisons. It's a pretty nice fireplace. You know, it's a nice cozy room. You got the windows on each side. You got the big Alliance shield up on the mantle with a couple pictures or framed things. And the stones are really cool all around it. Like, it's a really nice cozy fireplace. My only kind of gripe with it is it does have that same thing I mentioned earlier with the Horde, where it feels like the Alliance just took a bonfire and put it in the fireplace instead of kind of, you know, throwing a bunch of logs in there. But that's like kind of nitpicking it, you know. It's still a fireplace, right? But overall, you know, it's your standard cozy fireplace with some cool framing outside of it, and I think it's neat, but there's not much else to be said about it. So that's number 7. 6. Number 6 is the Borealis fireplace, and I picked the Borealis fireplace because I think it really does encapsulate the theme and aesthetic of Borealis very well. You know, I mean, for the most part, it's a fireplace, right? You got those big stones, you got the mantle, you got the fire, but you know, you have so many things around it. You have the anchor right above the fireplace. You have the wheel on the wall next to it. You have the fish on the wall next to it. You have the little logs, well, I guess they're normal logs, not really little logs. The normal logs with the fire tongs that you're getting ready to throw another log into the fire, which is a really nice touch. You don't see it a lot of other fireplaces around Azeroth or World of Warcraft, and obviously it's inside of an inn, so it's a very cozy fireplace, because I feel like every time it's inside of an inn, it just has that cozy vibe to it, you know what I mean? And one of the most important things is that it has a chimney. There is an actual area for the smoke to rise up, and nobody in here is getting carbon monoxide poisoning. So there might not be any wacky Hemet Nessingwary stories or Death Knight ales or whatever it was, but you know what? Nobody's gonna die. At least not of carbon monoxide. 5. Number 5 is the Wildhammer Keep fireplace, and I just love the aesthetic of this fireplace. I mean, you're in this big dwarven keep. You've got, you know, a bunch of chairs where they're just sitting around talking. You've got TNT, you've got guns, you've got beer kegs, you've got empty bottles of who knows what. You got anvils with hammers. You got a book. You got lock boxes. You've got these big iron beams that are kind of framing the fireplace with the underground rock style in the background. It's just really cool, man. I love it so much. And then you actually have way up top these animal heads on plaques, like the boars and the deer, and it's just, you know, in this big spacious area. So I just really like the style of this fireplace area and the fireplace itself. And you know, nothing crazy, but I think it's pretty cool. That's why it's number 5. 4. Number 4 is the Goldshire Inn fireplace, or I guess the Lion's Pride Inn fireplace, and this is just a classic. Literally a classic, for it's classic WoW. And I think it's one of the most notorious fireplaces in World of Warcraft. Like, when people think of World of Warcraft fireplaces, I think a lot of minds go right to this one, right? You think, oh, I'm in the Goldshire Inn, that big red brick fireplace, which this is during Winter's Veil, so we got all the stockings up there. You got the, mistletoe, which I never realized was above the Christmas or Winter's Veil NPCs. It's a classic. What else can I say? I mean, I think when the Hearthstone Tavern guy is like, come in and sit by the fire, whatever he says, I think he's actually just talking about this fire. I mean, you can even see the Hearthstone table right here, so it would add up. The only thing is, if you look inside this fireplace, much like the Blue Recluse or whatever, it is walled off, so there is no chimney. Even if there's a chimney up top, it's fake. No smoke coming out of that. The smoke is all staying in here, and there is carbon monoxide all over this place, which maybe does explain why so many interesting things happen at the Goldshire Inn. And that's number 4. 3. Number 3 is a fireplace that I don't think a lot of people know about. I know I didn't know about it. And it is the Fort Dalen fireplace, which is in the Stormsong Valley. And it's not even lit. So it's a little weird, but it has this big kraken on the mantle of the fireplace, and there's just no logs in it. There's these candlesticks next to it, which are really cool. It's like these 2 krakens holding a candle in each tentacle. And I mean, aesthetically, this fireplace is just awesome. And I would love if this fireplace got lit. I think it would look really cool if it was lit, but I mean, listen, just because it's a fireplace doesn't mean the fire has to be on. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, this is one of the coolest fireplaces, I think, in World of Warcraft. I legit didn't know this existed. All right? Like, I needed to get like 1 or 2 more fireplaces for the list. And I was like, I'm like looking all over, man, and I can't find many fireplaces. And then there was one in another Stormsong Valley place, and I was like, this one's pretty cool in an inn. And then I just flew down here, and I was like, what? This is... Oh my god, and the crazy part, there's actually 2 of these. There's one on one side and one on the other. So there's 2 of these crazy Kraken fireplaces, and I couldn't really find any information on it. So if you know any information, or if this is part of like an Alliance quest line I never did or something, let me know, because even the building it's by, look, those big tentacle things right next to it, it's really cool. So that's why it's number 3. 2. Number 2 is this fireplace I found in southern Gilneas that, again, I didn't even really know existed. I guess maybe because I don't level many Worgans, I don't know, but just the fire itself is really cool. It's got this intense kind of glowing effect. The framing of it, there's this cool beast stone thing. I don't know what it is, but it's just a stone beast that frames it. There's cool tapestry up top with the wooden beams. Like, everything about this place is just so aesthetically pleasing and kind of a little bit eerie in a way, but still kind of cozy. I don't know. It's kind of cool. There's skulls on the wall. The cauldron is obviously in there. So I really love this fireplace, and I didn't know where to put it, and it just kept growing on me. And at a point I was like, you know what? This belongs in like the top 5. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to put this in number 2. Cause I mean, I love this fireplace, man. It's so cool. It's so unique. Even that art on the wall there, the beach art, I think it is. I don't know what that is. I don't even remember seeing that anywhere. I think that's another kind of unique Worgen-esque piece of art, but I really love this place. I think it's really cool, and I think it's deserving of number 2. 1. And number 1 is the Thunder Brew Distillery in Keranos, because it has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4, no, 5 fireplaces. That's right. This place has 5 fireplaces, although I think 2 of them are kind of like similar to the other ones, but it doesn't matter because this place has easily the most fireplaces per square inch, I think, in World of Warcraft. It's actually insane. Like, I didn't realize there were so many fireplaces in this one inn. Like, it blew my mind. If you could find another one, tell me, because I don't think there is, but this is just, it's such a cozy place to be with all these fireplaces. You know, obviously you're out in Dunmoreau, it's snowing, it's cold, it's blustery, and you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna go into the Thunderbrew Distillery and, you know, have a beer, sit by the fire, you know, your choice. You can sit by whichever fire you want, And it really is just the best place for a fireplace. And that's why it's number 1. 10. Number 10 are the Pearlfin Village Beds, and if you don't know where that is in the Jade Forest on the shores of Pearl Lake. And this is where the Jinyu are, the fish people, but we're not here to talk about them. We're here to talk about their beds, which I guess kind of is talking about them. But look at these beds. They're like these weird oyster beds, and they've got some pearls in some of them, so I guess some do have pearls or eggs. I actually don't know what those are. They even got like a hot tub, which is pretty sick, but that's kind of weird that they're sleeping near the hot tub, although maybe they're relaxation beds. Maybe they just got so many beds, they're just putting them all over, because it does seem like they got quite a few of these beds. But they are a very unique design. Like, I haven't seen anything like this anywhere else in the game. Maybe it's there and I'm just oblivious and I haven't looked yet, like in Vazjir or something. I don't know. I also thought it was funny that they have pillows, because I was like, dude, those pillows got to be all like slimy and gross. But maybe not. Maybe the Jinyu are very clean fish people. I don't know. Either way, that's why the Pearlfin Village Beds are number 10. 9. Number 9 are the Blood Elf Beds located in Silver Moon City. And the Blood Elves have some cool canopy beds, and a lot of them are purple, and they got these really decorative pillows on top of them. They're also kind of moving on their own. I think it's either magic or I guess there could be a slight wind in the room, but like nothing else is moving, so I'm pretty sure it's just some sort of magical canopy they've got on there. I was also curious about why canopy beds are even a thing. So according to the internet, which has to be true, being able to enclose your bed in additional linens can help keep you warm during the winter. With some careful positioning, you may be able to utilize your bed to keep you cool in the summer as well. I also remember seeing a lot of canopy beds to block out mosquitoes and insects and stuff like that, but I don't think the Blood Elves have a mosquito problem, but maybe they do. Maybe they got like magical mosquitoes or something. That would be actually insane. They like suck the mana out of you or something. They also got some beds that are like part chair, part space pod. I don't know what they are, but they're pretty cool as well. I don't know. Either way, the Blood Elf beds are pretty cool, and that's why they're number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Goblin Beds, specifically the Goblin Beds located on the Isle of Kazan, which I'm sure they're located in other places, but this is where I found most of the beds, and they have pineapple sheets, which already just some unbelievable decorating. They got like zebra pillow covers, and then like some animal print other covers. I don't know what that is. If you go into Gallywix's villa on the Isle of Kazan, you'll actually find 2 goblin girls just sitting on his bed. So that's a thing, and they're just drinking. And they will actually yell at you to be like, hey, what's this loser doing here? So that's another thing happening on the Goblin Beds. And nearby, there's a little baby raptor guy, and he's got his own little bed. So that bed can also be included in the Goblin Beds. But I really just love how tacky these beds are, and they do kind of encapsulate a lot of goblin stuff with the weird robotic bed pillar things. I don't even know if they're robotic, just industrial looking bed pillars. But either way, these are pretty cool beds, and that's why they're number 8. 7. Number 7 are the beds located in the Roasted Ram in Veldraken. And these are kind of weird beds. They feel like a combination of a bunch of different beds in the game, because they're like kind of circular and open, but they still have like a backdrop or backboard. I don't know bed structure. Listen. Okay, it's called a headboard. I looked it up. It's called a headboard. There we go. I got it. And they also have the mattress part of the bed. Looks like it has dragon scales on the side of it, which is pretty cool. So, I mean, overall, I don't think these beds are like the coolest beds in the game or anything, right? But I do think they're pretty unique, and they're some of the newest beds in the game as of the recording of this being Dragonflight, and they seem like they'd be pretty comfortable to sleep in, so they kind of remind me of the beds you find at a really fancy store at the mall that isn't really that fancy but pretends to be fancy. You know what I'm talking about? It reminds me of like one of those. But overall, they seem pretty solid. They're well built. They got cool design, and they're probably pretty soft to sleep in. So that's why the Veldraken beds are number 7. 6. Number 6 are the beds located in the Goldshire Inn. And I think you know why I've put the Goldshire Inn beds on this list. They are probably the most used beds in World of Warcraft. For a variety of reasons, many being roleplay specific, some different types of roleplay than others, but these are definitely beds that get use, right? I mean, people are always around them, they're always doing things on them or near them, and, you know, you could say whatever happens in Goldshire stays in Goldshire. Goldshire really is just the Vegas of World of Warcraft. But in terms of the actual beds, they're pretty cool beds. Like, they're pretty basic, but they got pillows, they got sheets, they got some cool engravings in the wood, they got little They're not canopy beds, but they got little like tapestry things going around them. Although some of the beds are just sheets and a pillow, and some of the most basic beds you're going to find in the game. But again, that's all some people in Goldshire need. So that's why the Goldshire beds are number 6. 5. Number 5 are some of the cool beds in Dalaran. And what I like about these beds is it's a good blend of what we've already seen. You've got like the canopy beds, but it looks more like a royal canopy type of bed. You've got really intricate pillow design. You've got almost like a basic bed, but it's almost like a fancy basic bed. It's got that cool headboard. Okay, I remembered that now. It's got the little bedposts with the lights, almost like the Dalaran towers. I actually love that a lot, how it looks like little Dalaran towers as bedposts for all the different beds. I think that might be my favorite design style out of the beds in Dalaran. Maybe even, you know what? Maybe even out of all the beds. I'd say it's probably one of my favorite things I've seen. I think it's a really cool design idea for the beds. Although the oyster beds are pretty cool. But what's cool about this is it's actually taking inspiration from the city that the bed is in, right? Like it's actually looking at the Dalaran towers and being like, yo, what if we made bedposts out of those towers, right? Which really makes it sound like everybody that built this city was really high when they did so, which they may have been. They may have been super high on like magical mana drugs or something. I don't know. Either way, that's why the Dalaran beds are number 5. 4. Number 4 are the Suramar beds. And speaking of magical mana drugs, I feel like a lot of people here are on magical mana drugs, but these beds give me kind of 70s inspiration vibe. It kind of reminds me of the Blood Elf beds, right? Which, you know, they're kind of tied together, but you know, there's no canopies here, but they do have those big circular beds, which are very 70s. They got one place where there's just a bunch of pillows all over the ground, so technically you could use those as a bed. They even have some normal looking beds. They have like a stone base, and then you got the mattress on top of that, and then a fun little cushion with a cool arch looking headboard, although it looks like it has little tentacle arms or something. Maybe Nazoth, who even knows? Maybe he's watching them sleep, which would be pretty creepy if he's just watching you sleep. Although Santa Claus watches you sleep. That's kind of messed up when you think about it. He doesn't need to watch you sleep, does he? Like, what's he getting from that? Is he just trying to... He's just trying to figure out if it's been good or bad. Does he have to watch you sleep to know that? Or is he just trying to get into your house when you're... It's kind of freaky when you think about it. Anyway, that's why the Suramar beds are number 4. 3. Number 3 are the beds located in Borealis. And I like these beds for a few reasons. One is just their aesthetic. You have the Captain's Wheel headboard, which I think is really cool. Although some people might be like, oh, it's a little too much theming, but I think it's pretty fun. And then there's also the edge of the bed where it has maybe that's the baseboard, is the like other part of the bed, the baseboard. But either way, it's got like the little ship nodules with the rope going across. I think that's pretty cool. They're like ship beds, right? Which is I think it's pretty sick. And the other reason isn't even like a good thing, which I guess should be a negative, but the pillows look like they're oddly shaped. Like it doesn't look like your head would fit very well in there, you know what I mean? Or it wouldn't support your neck. They're kind of like jammed into the back of the bed. And they've done that for every bed. I guess you could just move the pillow, but it just bothers me for some reason. I was also upset because I wanted to put the Zandalar beds on this list. If you look up Zandalar bed, you'll see it looks really cool. And then I looked for it in game and I couldn't find it. And I think the artist actually created it and had like concept art, but then it never got put into the game. Unless I just completely missed it, in which case the Zandalar beds would be on this list. But if not, go look it up. They're pretty sick. They would have made the list, but oh well. Either way, that's why the Borealis beds are number 3. 2. Number 2 is the leather pet bed toy, which is a toy that allows you to place a bed for most companion pets and has a 20-second cooldown. And this bed is phenomenal. It's just a standard bed, but whatever critter you have out, or pet, or whatever you want to call it, will hop onto the bed, and they all stand on it in a variety of ways. Some just like go on and they sleep like a cat. Some just stand on it like the squirrel. The armadillo and the turtle kind of curl up into their shell and they just sit on the bed, which I think is pretty funny. And then they're like boing, and they hop out of it after they're done sleeping, even though they only sleep for like 20 seconds, I guess. Both the bear and the sloth kind of struggle to even sleep on the bed. They're like partially on it, but a lot of them is just hanging off the bed. And watch this guy. He's not even sleeping and he's just like, "Dwop!" It just like power jumps off. He's like a gymnast. But the main point here is this bed is just really unique because of the way you can use it and have a bunch of different pets and critters hop onto the bed and interact with it in different ways. So that's why the leather pet bed is number 2. 1. And number 1 is Medivh's bed in Karazhan. And Medivh's bed is actually insane. It is like on a triple platform thing with a little ramp going up to the top. And then you have the actual bed up at the top, and it's got like it's got everything we've mentioned earlier. It's got the canopy, Although it's not fully enclosed in the canopy, but it's got like the tapestry canopy. It's got pillows up there. This bed is insane. I don't know why Medivh needs a bed this intricate and this crazy, but he just went all out. This dude was like a pharaoh from back in Egypt. He like wanted a pyramid bed and he made it. I guess he could use magic to make it or something. I don't know. But this bed is easily one of the most insane beds I've seen in World of Warcraft. And that is why Medivh's bed is number 1. 10. Number 10 is the food on the tables at the Great Mead Hall, which is the warrior class hall and the throne room for Odin. And I think my favorite thing about the food here is the actual plates and cups and bowls that they're in. They're like these wooden barrel-esque type of bowls and plates. And then the actual food itself is a little weird. There's like a mountain of mushrooms. There's like some, what looks like ash. I don't even know what's in there. I guess maybe it's rice or grains. There's a skull with a knife through it. I don't think anybody's eating that, although maybe somebody is. These are crazy Viking dudes. They got cheese. They got some weird shiny looking bread, or it might be steaks. I think maybe that is steaks or some sort of meat, but whatever it is, it looks shiny there. But then at a different part, it looks like there's some less shiny steaks. It might just be the lighting, but either way, then they got some flat looking potatoes that kind of just look like mushrooms. I actually thought they were mushrooms at first. And then they also got big kegs of ale, which this guy's getting very mad at. You know, maybe they ran out, they got to get another one, so he's just upset. But I think the actual feast going on is really cool. I think this room itself is really cool. And I think even though the food itself isn't really that appetizing, there is a lot of it. And it seems like they're enjoying it, so maybe it just tastes good. It just doesn't look that great. Either way, that's why I decided to put it at number 10. 9. Number 9 is the dinner party occurring outside of Darnassus, where they're serving these big blue pieces of cake. I don't know what this is. At first, I thought it was cake, and I was like, wait, is this like meat? It looks like some sort of blueberry dish. I have no idea what this is. I've been trying to figure it out, but I think it's cake or some sort of fruit pie. I don't know. It's it's confusing, but they're serving that, and then they're serving a bunch of just wine and, you know, whatever, alcohol, champagne, whatever that is. But the crazy thing here is that Talen's Sweet Song, who's the one throwing this party, is actually a homunculus. And if you don't know what a homunculus is, it is a type of undead construct that is so lifelike it is to be undetectable even by undead hunting experts such as Lillian Voss. And I mean, listen, for being a homunculus, she's throwing a great party. You know, she's got a whole bunch of drinks out here. You got this crazy food thing that I don't even know how they made it. There's got to be some sort of night elf magic going into that. But everybody seems to be having a great time. But this is one of the situations where it's more about the quality over the quantity of the food, because there's really not that much food here. It's just alcohol and then whatever this pie cake magical thing is. Plus, you don't really see many dinner parties happening in World of Warcraft, and that's why it's number 9. 8. Number 8 is the food at the Haven Cascades where Greedy Gessie is at. So the whole point here is that you get all this food for Greedy Gessie and then it summons them, and that's that. But the actual food on the tables at the Greedy Gessie area is really cool. I mean, this is the type of food that I would imagine a lot of, you know, night elves and druids would eat. It's a lot of fruit and vegetables, very vegetarian. I mean, you got watermelon slices, you got these different colored carrots, you got mushrooms that look a little better than the ones we just saw earlier. You got tomatoes, celery, grapes, you got your lettuce, you got radishes. Like, they got everything here. They even got instruments. They got a flute and a banjo. And I really like the containers too. They got like rock bowls and pitchers, and it's really just a nice area. And when I saw this, I was like, you know what? This would be a really nice thing to add to pointless top 10 food on tables, because I don't think there's many like this. There's a lot of big feasts and crazy stuff, but there's never really a nice little vegetarian feast. I don't know, but either way, Greedy Gessie just wants to eat it. I don't know why they're so greedy. Maybe they just give the bear like a couple watermelon slices and a carrot and it wants more. I don't know. Maybe they're not feeding Gessie enough. Maybe Gessie's not that greedy. Who knows? Either way, this is number 8. 7. Number 7 is the Karazhan Banquet Hall food. And the Karazhan Banquet Hall food is a little outdated, but it actually, I think, holds up pretty well. You've got this boar with an orange in its mouth and all the oranges all around it. I actually like the way the oranges look here, even if some of them look almost like sushi. It almost looks like an orange roll, like a literal sushi roll with an orange in it, right? Do you see? I think it's just the shape and how weird it looks. That's all I can see when I look at it. But you've got fish on a platter that also has oranges. They really just must have a surplus of oranges here. They got turkey legs, they got bananas and fruit like pears and apples. They got wine, although that is some bright red orange wine. That wouldn't surprise me if that's orange wine on top of it. This place is just citrus central. And then there's this guy who I think ate a little too fast and choked to death, but surprisingly, he didn't choke on an orange. That's a little weird. But I really do love the aesthetic of this place. I love the big stained glass windows with the light shining in. We really need to do a pointless top 10 stained glass windows, honestly, or even just windows in general, but I feel like stained glass windows could be their own thing. Overall, love the aesthetic of Karazhan, love the food on these tables, love the big tablecloths and everything about it, and the oranges, and that's why it's number 7. 6. Number 6 is the food on the tables in Dalaran, specifically the Legion Dalaran. And I was going to find some specific places, but I really just love so much stuff within Dalaran. So starting here, we have this like little cafe, and they have coffee and cupcakes, and they got wine. You got candles and books, although you're not really eating candles and books, but who knows? Maybe they're edible. We don't know. Have you tried eating them? That's what I thought. They have like a coffee espresso machine. Then if you go to the crazy wine and cheese place across the street, they got a bunch of crazy wine and cheeses. Who would have guessed? In fact, I think they got some of the widest variety of cheeses in World of Warcraft that I've seen. And those wine bottles with the cool inscriptions on them. And then over at the Horde Inn, they got a bunch of ribs, and they got steaks, and they got a plain strider, whatever, cooking in the background. And they got... apparently they stole that boar from Karazhan with some of the oranges. I mean, I really love just all the food that you can see on tables in Dalaran. Like, it really is just such a great contrast of all the different foods. And it's really just fun to go around and look at all of them. I would honestly recommend going and doing it for yourself. Because, I mean, obviously you can see them all in the video, but it's really fun, especially if you're somebody that enjoys the aesthetics and art of World of Warcraft, to just walk around and look at all the little things like the food on the tables. And that's why New Dalaran is number 6. 5. Number 5 is the Artisan Market in Valdrakken, and I love this place because I guess you could say the market aesthetic is very cool to me, and the way the food is laid out here is just really cool. You have the Cheese Dragon, who's actually from Pointless Top 10 Food Vendors, if you haven't seen that. But you have the Cheese Dragon with all his different cheeses here. You have the fish section with all the fish and the shrimp and the seafood. And you've got the roasts, and you have these dragon fruits and melons, and you have this floating fountain table of bread and things. I don't know what those are. And you got ribs, and you got eggs. So some of the food we've actually seen quite a bit before, but I really just like the way that it's presented on these tables. Or I guess some of them aren't even tables, they're like kiosk type thing. Whatever, I'm counting them as tables, all right? I'm not being picky. This is a pointless list, it's a pointless series, it's a pointless everything, all right? I can do what I want. Anyway, that's why the food on the tables in the Artisan Market is number 5. 4. Number 4 is the food at Mistfall Village, and I didn't expect to find this much food at Mistfall Village. I thought it was going to be somewhere in like Valley of the Four Winds, but they have like numerous noodles, they got salmon, they got fried rice in Chinese takeout containers, which is kind of weird for World of Warcraft. They got an actual fish sandwich with like glowy-eyed fish on plates. They got fish hanging up on hooks. They got seafood in cages and buckets. Dude, this place has so much stuff. They got burgers. They got full slabs of ribs. They got big chunks of meat. They got steak. They got bags of rice. They got tea. They got watermelon slices. They got bread. They got dumplings. They got cans of soda or sparkling water, which I don't know how they carbonate it. Maybe they just use magic. I don't know, gnomish engineering or something. Goblin engineering. But this place is probably one of the best places to eat in World of Warcraft. Like, no doubt. It's got so much food, so much variety, a great aesthetic, and I just love it here. And that's why it's number 4. 3. Number 3 is the reason that this pointless top 10 actually got uploaded a day late, and that is the Pilgrim's Bounty, because Pilgrim's Bounty didn't happen until Sunday, and normally I put these up on Saturday night. So I had to wait a little bit to show all the food on the tables at the Pilgrim's Bounty, but I think it's very worth it because it's got some of the best food. I mean, this is one of the events where it's all about cooking and eating and food fights and turkey hunting and all this stuff. You've got the spice bread stuffing, you've got the pumpkin pie, You got the cranberry chutney, you have the candied sweet potatoes, and you have the slow roasted turkey. And it's just all presented in a visually appealing fashion, I would say. I also love that there's just a giant axe that is being used to cut the turkey. And it's not even just at a local place. It's not like, oh, Durotar did that. They're all orcs. Like literally everybody, like in the Undead place, they've done it. In Thunderbluff, like Dunmurrow, everybody just loves cutting stuff with axes, apparently. But honestly, my favorite thing on the table is the cornucopia, which is the big horn looking thing, and it is apparently a symbol of plenty consisting of a goat's horn overflowing with flowers, fruit, and corn. Overall, love this stuff. Every year I always look forward to at least doing this once, right? Just eating all the food, getting the buff, doing all the little things, and that's why the Pilgrim's Bounty tables are number 3. Number 2 is the Taste of Zandalar, which is in the port of Zuldazar. And, you know, they've got some tortillas. They got some stuff you can put on the tortillas, which is pretty cool. But that's not what this is about. This is about the giant pieces of meat that are just over the fire and these giant eggs that have been cracked into these big frying pans. These are probably some of my favorite food. I guess these aren't really tables. Some of it's like a pan or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's close enough, right? Like just the fact that there is this giant egg. This egg might be as big as a gnome's head. Like it's gigantic, right? There's like some trolls sitting on the floor eating meat. There's some trolls cooking with the tortillas and stuff like that. But the big story right here is the giant pieces of meat. I mean, that's a dinosaur leg. You look at that right there. That is a dinosaur leg, and that is a big dinosaur steak. They also just left the shell laying there. I don't know if that's very sanitary, but hey, you know what? I'm just here to look around. I'm not here to be the food inspector. Well, I kind of am inspecting the food, but not in that way. So overall, I really just love how unique this area is and how unique the food is compared to the rest of the stuff we've looked at. And that's why it's number 2. And number 1 is Borealis, and specifically the Tradewinds Market and Hook Point in Borealis, because they've got some of the best displays of food that I think are in World of Warcraft. You've got a wide variety of produce like corn and tomatoes and cabbage. You've got a bunch of different grains. You've got bread and cheese and apples. You've got peaches. You've got sausages and hanging pigs, which is a little crazy, but you know, it's realistic. You've got eggs and a chicken coop. They got the fish market where they actually toss the fish to each other, which I think is awesome. It's actually one of the reasons that I love this the most. I love the interaction. I know there's that like Seattle fish market that does that too. And there's a ton of different colored fish and they're all on the ice and they got the big chunks of ice there. I really just love the aesthetic of this place. I love the way the food looks and it gives me the best vibes. And that's why I put it at number 1, because I really do think if I had to pick one place to eat here with the food on the tables, it would be Borealis. And that's why it's number 1. Number 10 are the water wheels located at Bradenbrook in Val'Shara and in Gilneas. And at first I was going to have these water wheels be separate, and then I realized that they're actually the exact same water wheel, just in different locations. But there is one thing that separates the two, and that is one is connected on both sides, and the other one has one of the sides missing. So you can actually see the metal piece that goes in the center rotating on top of the water wheel, which I actually think is pretty cool because they could have not animated that at all, you know what I mean? But they actually went ahead and did animate it. And apparently that is called the axis or the shaft. But I actually really like the aesthetic of this wheel. Like it's very rustic and it makes sense that it would be in Gilneas and in Bradensbrook, right? Like it's got these planks that have moss growing all over, and then the actual the paddles, which is like the inner parts of the wheel, also have that plank vibe. I think some are planks, but some are like bigger chunks of wood. I just think it's a really cool looking water wheel. I do think the one in Bradensbrook looks a bit cooler, where it's attached to both sides of the hill and then the water's pouring down from the waterfall and going through. So you actually kind of see it in action. It's next to this cozy little cottage. And I'm not actually sure if the Gilneas one has always been like this, because I know the cataclysm happened. Obviously nobody lives here anymore. So maybe this got broken or the thing it was attached to broke off. I have no idea, but you know, it's the same wheel. It still looks cool, and we get a little peek inside of it. And so that's why both these water wheels that are the same water wheel are number 10. Number 9 are the high mountain water wheels, and these are water wheels that are located up in the mountains, of High Mountain. And I put them at number 9 because they are really cool. I love the designs on all these water wheels. They're very simplistic. You know, it's not like this massive wheel. In fact, I think these are probably the most basic water wheels on this entire list. But my main question is, what is their purpose? Because a lot of other water wheels are powering something, right? Like, even in real life, water wheels are, according to Wikipedia, used for milling flour, grinding wood into pulp for paper making, hammering wrought iron, ore crushing, and pounding fiber for use in the manufacturing of cloth. But it doesn't really seem like these are doing any of that. They're just kind of spinning around because the water from the waterfall is coming down and hitting them. Maybe they're trying to slow the water from the waterfall down for some reason. Like, that's all I could think of, because I don't see anything these wheels would be powering. But maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just completely missing it. So if you know, comment down below. But I tried to even find some real life examples of this, and I just couldn't find any. So maybe the High Mountain Tauren really do just like the aesthetic of it. But either way, that's why the High Mountain water wheels are number 9. 8. Number 8 is this big water wheel located in Borealis near the lumberyard. And I was trying to figure out what this water wheel was actually powering, because I thought it would be the sawmill with all these logs all around, but then I saw the sawmill is like in a different building across from this. So I was like, okay, and it's attached to this building, which has no way of seeing inside of it. So I don't know what's going on inside of this building. Maybe they're processing the lumber and using the water wheel energy for some sort of processing. I have no idea, but that's my best guess. But aside from determining what it's being used for, the actual construction of the water wheel is phenomenal. Like, it just looks extremely well built. It looks like it was designed and constructed by an expert craftsman or a team of expert craftsmen that were like, yo, we gotta create one of the best water wheels. And so they did it. Like, it just looks really good. However, with that being said, I think it does lack a little bit of flavor, right? It's just a very basic, well-constructed water wheel. And there's something to be said for that, but sometimes you want something a little fun and different. Like, if this was a World of Warcraft race, this wheel would be a human. Like, that is what it is. And so for that reason, that's why I put it at number 8. 7. Number 7 is the water wheel at the Cindermead Brewery in the Isle of Dorne. And this is a thick water wheel, dude. I feel like if I had to compare this one to a WoW race, it would be a dwarf. Like, this is the most dwarven water wheel I have seen. I should just compare every water wheel to a WoW race at this point. And it actually feels like this water wheel is going the slowest out of any of the water wheels. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just so big and heavy that it's rotating slowly. Like, I have no idea. I was also curious why there's a lot of water wheels at breweries, and so I found a Reddit comment, so it has to be true. Breweries were always built on a spring or river. The finished barrels or kegs might travel some distance by wagon, but not the water for the brewery. A water wheel was often used to power a pump to carry river water uphill. Then the breweries were built to be gravity flow from there. Or wait, be gravity flow? Do they mean let gravity flow? I'm not sure, but I get what they're saying, because they say that's why finished beer was always in the cellar. So there we go, some water wheel brewery facts and a cool water wheel, and that's why it's number 7. 6. Speaking of breweries, number 6 are the water wheels at the Storm Stout Brewery in the Valley of the Four Winds in Mist of Pandaria. And so this is actually pretty interesting, because one of the water wheels here is the exact same one that they have in Borealis. So I think the Pandas actually made it first. I was praising the Borealis one with their expert craftsmanship and everything, but like, the pandas, the drunk pandas ended up making it first. But then there's also this smaller water wheel that we haven't seen before, but I actually think this might be a simplified version of the bigger water wheel, because they both have the water paddles, the thing that are going into the water, and they have little markings on them, and each of the water wheels actually has the same markings. So yeah, I put this higher up on the list. 1, because we have 2 water wheels here. 2, because they actually invented this water wheel and not the Borealis people. And 3, it's also attached to a brewery, which we talked about. So I had to put this higher up on the list. Plus, I think it just looks really cool here in the Valley of the Four Winds, sitting on the river with the breweries there. And it gives me Studio Ghibli vibes a bit. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I had to put it at number 6. 5. Number 5 is the Hallowfall water wheel, and this is probably one of the best looking water wheels in the game, because it was literally designed in this expansion that we're currently in, the War Within. Even the birds thought this was a really cool water wheel. Look at that. They put their nest up here. There's some eggs in there. It even has a very fitting aesthetic with a lot of the metal bits on the water wheel matching the Hallowfall Arathi logo design. And so it just feels like that the people that designed this water wheel actually put some thought into it. They didn't just, reuse a water wheel from, say, I don't know, Mist of Pandaria. That'd be crazy if they did something like that. But listen, I can see why they reused water wheels, right? It's a lot of time and effort to put into certain things, and you're like, do we really want to make an entire new water wheel? But I would say it makes sense in this situation because this is farmland. It fits, I think, the Halofal Arathi theme, and so I can see why they did it, and I'm glad they did it, because I've been wanting to make top 10 water wheels for a while, and the War Within finally gave me enough water wheels to really push this list over the edge, and so that's why the Halofal Arathi water wheels are number 5. 4. Number 4 is actually one that we've seen before. It's the one that's at the Storm Stout Brewery in the Valley of the Four Winds. However, this location in the Jade Forest has taken it and repainted it to be red and gold. And I actually think it looks a lot better. It pops more. It fits the village that it's in more. And it's cool because it's right near this big waterfall. So the waterfall's like coming down and hitting the wheel, and then that's kind of powering the wheel to turn. So I really like the location of this water wheel. I think it's nice that we can actually see the designs more clearly because of the gold. And then the water wheel actually matches all the houses in the area with the same red gold colorization as well. So yeah, even though this water wheel is a reused water wheel, I like that they've taken it and they've just put their own spin on it, right? They didn't just slap it there and be like, it's some brown wood water wheel that just is going to be in the village. They were like, nah, dude, let's spice it up. Let's make it fit the village. And that's what they did. And so I love that. And so that's why this water wheel is number 4. 3. Number 3 are the Stone Dark Grotto and Muck Snout Den water wheels located in High Mountain. And these are some really cool water wheels because they are made out of stone. We're so used to seeing all these wooden water wheels all over the place above ground, but now we go into these caves and we get to see these massive stone water wheels, and it looks awesome. And there's not just 1 or 2 of these. Like, these are located all over the place, which makes me curious of how they actually went about building these things and making sure they worked, but who am I to question their methods? Whatever they did, it worked great. So props to them. But yeah, I just really like the way the water wheels look. I think the stone looks great. I think the water pouring over the wheel also looks really cool. Like the rushing water is kind of overtaking this big stone wheel, but obviously it's made out of stone, so it's just kind of splashing over the sides. It feels very natural, you know what I mean? Plus, it's not every day you see a water wheel made out of stone, and so that's why I had to put it at number 3. 2. Number 2 is a water wheel located at the Dawn's Blossom, which is a town in the Jade Forest in the Mist of Pandaria. And this is probably one of the most unique water wheels in the game. It has these buckets attached to it, and then it looks like the water rushes into the bucket, and then that kind of propels the wheel forward, and then it goes up, and then the water falls out, and it just kind of does that over and over. And at first, I thought the water wheel was going backwards, because I was like, wait, why are the buckets not filling up with water? It's like putting the bottom of the bucket down first. But then I realized what was happening. And so there was actually an entire Reddit post about this exact water wheel where somebody was like, the water wheel's going backwards. And people were just arguing in the comments being like, it's not going backwards. It's just crazy to see an entire thread about a water wheel. But that's exactly why I had to put this high up on the list. Not only because it's a unique water wheel, but it got people to argue about a water wheel in World of Warcraft, and that's pretty pointless, and so that's why it's number 2. 1. And number 1 is the massive water wheel located at the Cragpool Lake in the Stone Talon Mountains. And I'm sure a lot of people saw this one coming, but when I think of a water wheel in World of Warcraft, this is just the first one that I think of. Like, it goes all the way back to Classic WoW. It is just this massive water wheel. This is where a lot of people died in hardcore WoW, and you could just see all the gears and stuff turning. It's just, this is such a ginormous water wheel that it's actually really cool to see up close when you're just analyzing the wheel itself and not trying to die to the Venture Co. killing you on your level 25 character. I don't remember what exact level you come here at. I think it's like mid-20s. And I even love the way the water is pouring over the crag onto the wheel, and the fact that they put the wheel up way high on these giant beams makes it even crazier to look at. It's just probably one of the biggest and most iconic things in the entire Stone Talon Mountains, and so how could I not put it at the top of the list? And so that's why the massive Windshear Crag water wheel is number 1. 10. Number 10 are the barbecues at the Seeker's Vista in Stormsong Valley, and these were barbecues that I have never seen before. And mind you, I've been here for 2 other pointless top 10s, and I have quested in this area, and I have just, for some reason, just always glanced over these barbecues. And it looks like the Tortolan are grilling some fish and some sort of fruit, like a big pineapple or something, and then there's a, what is that thing? Is that a snail? There's no way they'd grill snails in front of the snails just playing around from Pointless Top 10 Snails. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't grill their family. Or would they? But yeah, the actual grill itself is pretty cool. You've got the wood fire, and then you got the big metal, it almost looks like a wheel or something you'd shut off a valve with, and then on top of that is the actual grill bowl and plate that they grill stuff on. So really unique grill. I've never seen a grill like this in World of Warcraft, so that's why the Seeker's Vista grill is number 10. 9. Number 9 is the Stonefang Outpost Barbecue, and the Stonefang Outpost is a Frostwolf Orcs outpost in central Frostfire Ridge. And I believe this is a cleft hoof on this barbecue, because you can see the back end, it's got a tail and legs, and then the front end, and you've got the head on the bottom grail, or grill, whatever you want to call it, of the barbecue. So this is a giant barbecue for grilling up this big cleft hoof thing. And they got a bucket of glaze, it appears. I don't know if that's glaze or fat or grease or something. They're using it for something with that big brush. I don't know how sanitary it is to just leave it on the rocks, but I mean, listen, it's orcs. What are you gonna do? Also, I just thought it was funny that there's this guy dragging around a body in the background. Like, I didn't expect to find that when looking for barbecues, but it's definitely happening. But as for the actual barbecue, it's pretty neat. Like, you got the two giant sticks holding up the big stick that they skewered the cleft hoof across, and then you got the big grill plate above the coals below. So, you know, very basic, but still looks pretty cool. So that's why the Stonefang Outpost Barbecue is number 9. 8. Number 8 is the Steamworks Sausage Grill, and I had to put this on the list because, I mean, you could literally have a barbecue anywhere with this thing. You could have a barbecue in Orgrimmar, you could have a barbecue in Tanaris, you could have a barbecue in Dalaran. I mean, you could have a barbecue anywhere you want, right? Just bring your friends, be like, yo, we're grilling some sausages, which the funny part here is, like, imagine just going into WoW and messaging all your friends, like, guys, meet me over here right now, this is important. And they're like, okay. And everybody meets you and you're like, what's up? Who's ready for the barbecue? And they're just like, wait, this is it? You brought us here for a sausage grill barbecue? And then if they're cool, they're like, awesome, let's do it. And if they're not cool, they're like, I'm out of here. So that's a great way to tell if your friends are cool or fake friends. But the grill itself is pretty cool. It's this little grill, you know, just like you'd find anywhere, one of those tiny grills. It's got a little smokestack thing on it. So you get this from Brewfest, which I always thought you were going to get it from the Midsummer Fire Festival, but I guess Brewfest would make more sense because that's like, you know, sausages and beer and all that. So if you want one of these, get it at Brewfest. And that's why it's number 8. 7. Number 7 is the barbecues happening at the Half Hill Market. And Half Hill Market has Cole Ironpaw, who is the master of the grill, as per his title. So if somebody's a master of the grill, obviously they have to be on the barbecue list. But this place actually has some phenomenal food everywhere. You've got peppers, you got meat, you got eggs, you got garlic, you got cabbage, you got carrots. They got a whole bunch of stuff. They also have some really fancy barbecue grills. Like, they're built into this big table, which is really cool. Although the grill master doesn't need that. He's just got his own fire over there ready to grill up on his own. Like, he knows what he's doing. So I think I'm going to trust him the most out of everybody here. Also, Lore Walker Cho is here, and he's like, it's good to enjoy the fruits of the earth, but not to excess. But all he's doing is eating. He's just eating nonstop, just staying in here chowing down. So that's why the Half Hill Market barbecues are number 7. 6. Number 6 are the barbecues located in the Filthy Animal, which is the Horde Inn in Dalaran. And I put these on the list because I thought this was unique to barbecues being on the inside instead of outside, kind of like Korean barbecue, or I guess there's like a big bowl in the center, so it's more like a hot pot type thing. And there's also the big plain strider being cooked up over the fire in the background, so that's kind of like a barbecue as well. But I really love how all the food looks on the tables. Like, you got sausages and ribs and steaks. Like, it's just a bunch of meat on every table. And then I don't know if you put the meat into the boiling water, or maybe the water's like soup or something. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it's like a hot pot or if it is just an actual soup or whatever it is. But one thing's for sure, and that's that it's pretty cool. So that's why the Filthy Animal barbecues are number 6. 5. Number 5 are the Goblin barbecues, and I specifically picked this one place in Azshara where this goblin has an entire restaurant where he pretty much is barbecuing everything. And the goblin cooking here is named Joey Ray, and apparently Joey Ray's bar is the place where Jim Raynor controls his army on the first 4 missions in StarCraft 2, so a little Blizzard reference there. And Joey Ray is grilling up some burgers, he's grilling up a fish sandwich, which I don't know how cooked that fish is, but I don't think I would eat it. It also looks like he's grilling up some corn, and then he's also got a crab or lobster. Something's trying to get out of that pot, and it's still alive. But I really love the Goblin Grill. Like, it's this big engineered grill with these coils on the side that are sparking up. And then I imagine this is an electric grill because there's no flame that I can see. And then just a fantastic design choice with the banana wallpaper, even though he's cooking with 0 bananas that we know of. And it really just, you know, it brings the room together. It really adds a vibe to here. So that's why the Goblin Barbecue and Joey Ray are number 5. 4. Number 4 is the Taste of Zandalar Barbecues, and the Taste of Zandalar is this big open kitchen located at the Grand Bazaar in Dazar Alor. And I put this place on Pointless Top 10 food on tables, but I knew I had to bring it back for barbecues, because it's just too good, right? You've got these big slabs of meat cooking over the grill. You have this big dinosaur leg that's getting barbecued back there. It looks like they also have a bunch of dinosaur tails that are being grilled up, and then they have a big egg that's just being fried over a fire. Like, I love this place. And I know I've said unique probably like 20 times this episode, but this is a truly unique barbecue because not often do you find a dinosaur barbecue, and not like a themed dinosaur barbecue. Like, we're grilling up dinosaurs. Like, this is kind of insane when you think about it. And I know there's gonna be somebody that's like, oh, technically a chicken is a dinosaur, so we actually do have dinosaur barbecues because you grill up chicken. Shut up. You know what I mean. And that's why the Taste of Zandalar Barbecue is number 4. 3. Number 3 are the Etten barbecues located in Sprucewood in the Storm Song Valley. And I almost put these at number 1 because that's how much I love these barbecues. But I was like, you know what? Number 3 is pretty good. But I love that the Ettens have literally just picked up giant branches or trees and just stuck them into the ground and like formed a little fire thing. And they just like stab food into it. They're just like, stab the fish into the tree, and they just like stab it over and just jam it into the ground, and then they just cook it over a big fire. Like, I think that's so cool. You can also see in the background there's that big Etten carrying a goat back to the camp, so I don't know how they're gonna cook that goat, but I would love to see how. And then there's this Etten that looks like he's trying to channel some spell over the meat, or I don't know if he's like warming his hand. He's doing something that looks kind of weird, but he's having a good time. I'd say the biggest downside to this barbecue is you never know if you're gonna get hit by a rock. Like, they're just up top lobbing rocks everywhere. So you might be grilling up your food and then boom, you get concussed. Who knows? But that's why the Etten barbecues are number 3. 2. Number 2 are the Marakai centaurs in the Onaran Plains, and these centaurs know how to barbecue, man. Like, they got numerous fire pits set up with barbecue stuff. They have like different styles of barbecues all over the place. They got tables with spices and meats. Like, I forgot this place existed until I flew by here and I was like, oh my God, I almost missed this barbecue area. Like, they've got so much food that they're grilling up outside. This is maybe one of the biggest barbecues in World of Warcraft. Like, this is just a giant barbecue area, and the centaurs are just, they look like they're passionate about it too, right? Like, they're really getting into it. There's also a bird that just flies over like he's about to start eating. I don't know if he's supposed to be here or not. But yeah, if I had to pick one barbecue to go to, I think I might pick this one because it seems like they're gonna have the most variety. They have a bunch of spices and seasonings. Like, it seems like they're just gonna make the best tasting barbecue with the biggest variety. So that's why the Marakai Centaur barbecue is number 2. 1. And number 1 is the Good Grub Smoking Pit. And the Good Grub Smoking Pit's located in northeastern Winter Spring. And I know I've been saying it the whole time, but this is really one of the most unique things in World of Warcraft. Like, it is this giant tornado fire that is built into the ground like a fire pit, and then it has this big tower thing that goes all the way up where they're just smoking a bunch of different meats. And they even got hooks where you could hook the meat onto it if you want it closer to the fire. It's pretty insane. But the other insane thing are the people here, starting with the Goblin Girl, because her name is Barbie Cute Saz, so it's supposed to be like barbecue sauce. I thought it was something else when I first glanced at it, and I was like, what? And then we have Jeb Guthrie, who says, I've been eating owls my whole life. Owls is good eating, and my friend Jez agrees. And speaking of Jez, he says, hey, make sure not to walk into that smoker. The last unfortunate night elf to do that didn't survive the heat. That poor, delicious night elf. It also replaces whatever race you are to, you know, if you're like a Tauren, he's like, the Tauren walked in, that poor delicious Tauren. It depends whatever you are. And then there's Francis Morcott, who says, have you ever had the luxury of trying bear meat? I never had the chance to try it in Gilneas, but the bears here are simply exquisite. So yeah, this is an odd place with some odd people, but a really cool smoker, and that's why they're number 1. 10. Number 10 is the Star Lake Amphitheater in Ardenweld, where the Night Fae put on stage shows for other Fae and the Winter Queen, who has, as you might imagine, a throne that she can sit on and watch the plays from above. And I really love this throne. It's got a cool backrest that's in the shape of leaves, or I guess they actually are leaves, but then you have the branches kind of intertwining on the backrest and then going up to the top of the leaves. Then you've got the armrests, which are just more branches, and you've got some cool art on the actual part of the throne you sit on, although the part you sit on does kind of look like a sewer plate or a manhole cover, whatever it's called. Like, that's all I can think of just seeing that is like, it's going to open up and a Ninja Turtle comes out or something. But the actual tree stump that you sit on has a cool like star fairy pattern or something on it, and the branches got some cool swirls and stuff. And there's even a little bug friend guy that's just chilling there. Also, this throne is actually gigantic, as you can see with my dwarf sitting up there for scale. But I love the aesthetic of this place. I love the area, and I actually really enjoyed this part of the Shadowlands where they put on all the plays. It was probably one of my favorite parts from Shadowlands out of all the 4 things that I liked about it. So that's why it's number 10. 9. Number 9 is the seat of Korlok in Ashran, and I never thought I'd be putting something from Ashran on this list, but this is actually a cool throne. This is where Korlok, the Ogre King, waits for players of either faction to prove themselves worthy of his aid in battle by defeating his bodyguards Mukmaraz and Galdun Farak. Also, according to Wowpedia, an early map of Ashran shows this area named the King's Throne, and during the beta, it was known as the Throne of the Ogre King, so then they changed it eventually to Seat of Korlok. But I really like this place because I love the aesthetic, I love the stone walls, I love the tapestry hanging from the big wooden sticks. I love the stairs that are all made out of stone and there's like big rocks everywhere. And then the actual throne itself, where it's just, it feels like it blends in with the environment almost, and it has these big torches on both sides, as well as numerous other torches that are leading up the path to the throne. But yeah, this is one of those places I think people have forgotten about, and it's fun to just go back and be like, wow, you know, I never got to appreciate this when I was here because I was too busy playing Ashran and hating it. And that's why it's number 9. 8. Number 8 is this moose throne located at the Verdant Landing in the Emerald Dream. And some people might not consider this a very cool throne because it's not that big. It's like at the head of the table. Even I was like, would this technically be a throne? But I'm like, you know what? I think it would be a throne because I looked up the definition of throne and it said the chair or seat occupied by a sovereign, bishop, or other exalted personage on ceremonial occasions, usually raised on a dais, a platform, and covered with a canopy. And so to me, this throne actually fit that, right? It's a chair or seat that would be occupied by like the head of the table who's sitting there on some sort of ceremonial occasion, which is why they're all surrounding the table, right? It made sense to me, but I think this throne looks really cool. It's got like the big moose antlers as the backing, and everybody else at the table just has these small little intertwined branch backings. So this might not be the craziest throne, but I thought it was cool, and I thought it was a great way to kind of talk about the definition of a throne. So that's why it's number 8. 7. Number 7 is Thorim's throne, located on the Temple of Storms in the Storm Peaks. And everybody's going to remember Thorim's throne for the classic In the Mountains, right? Like that's why people remember this place, but it is a cool throne. It's got some old kind of Titan designs to it. The area is pretty cool with all the pillars. You got these floating Titan balls going around, and you just have Thorim there just sitting there like, I just wish something would happen. Which, to be fair, he's like the most realistic person on a throne out of all the people we're going to see. Because most people, they're sitting there like, yes, I'm waiting for some sort of important thing to do. And this guy's just like, yeah, I'm bored. Like, I love that. He's just like sitting up here in the middle of nowhere looking out like, man, I wish something would just happen, you know? In the mountains. However, I do think it would be pretty cool to sit up here and look out over the landscape, but it probably would get boring after a while, and that's why it's number 7. 6. Number 6 is the throne located in the Lordaeron throne room, which is where King Taranis Menethil was assassinated by Arthas. And this is where everybody always talks about hearing the voices, where if it's quiet and you just hear like, Arthas, what are you doing? Like, it plays the Warcraft 3 audio and everything, but when you take a look at the actual throne, it's pretty cool. It's got these chains or ropes kind of intertwined on the seat, and then you have these big paw animal, like lion paws or something. I don't know what animal they are, but they're the paws of some animal. And then you have these gems that are kind of encrusted in the actual chair itself. And on top of all that, the actual room itself is also cool. You have all the designs on the ground for Lordaeron. You got the light shining in. You got the balconies up top with the little torches. And then you got the blue tapestry drapes or whatever they are. But overall, it's just got a lot going for it, right? You have the lore behind it, you got a cool looking throne, you have a cool throne room, so it's just all tied together, and that's why it's number 6.
5.
Number 5 is the High Seat, located in Ironforge, and this is the throne room for the dwarves, where there's 3 thrones, and it currently hosts the 3 clans of the dwarves. So you have Moira Tharazon, Muradin Bronzebeard, and Falstad Wildhammer, and they make up what is called the Council of 3 Hammers. And I'm not gonna lie, when I heard the High Seat, it made me think of a high chair, and it made me think of babies, so I'm like, are these dwarves just sitting in big baby chairs? Maybe, but they actually look pretty cool. You have the big iron banners in the back with the mountain logo and the hammer on them, and then you have the griffin armrests on all the thrones that are pouring lava out of their beaks into the little lava pools, which I think is my favorite part. That's what really sold me on these thrones. It's also cool to just come here and watch all 3 of the dwarven leaders just interact with each other, and whoever comes into the throne room for various quests and stuff. It's pretty neat, so that's why the High Seat is number 5.
4.
Number 4 is the Golden Throne, and the Golden Throne of Dazar Allure was the throne room of King Rastakhan and is now Queen Talanji's throne. It is the highest point of the city, located right above the Great Seal, and the ruler's closest bodyguards and the Zankuli Council are stationed here. And the Golden Throne has some of my favorite architecture in the game. Like, it's got some cool snake backdrops, it's got some big torches on the side with little snake head or gator dinosaur heads. I don't know what they are, some sort of dinosaur snake head thing. But what really sells it for me is the sun backdrop. You got this big sun that's either rising or setting, I don't know which one, and then you have the 2 big pillars of fire on both sides that kind of give it that, you know, sun aesthetic, like it's very bright. And then you have the rays kind of behind the sun as well, like the sun rays on the back wall, you kind of see that. And then there's some light touches like the little plants hanging from the ceiling and then the gold plated floors and all that. It's really cool. It's definitely one of the more extravagant thrones in the game, and that's why it's number 4.
3.
Number 3 is Tharazane's throne, and I remember flying over this throne, scouting for pointless top 10 stuff, and I was like, whoa, this is a throne? Like, I'd forgotten all about this one, and it's just filled with crystals as the back of the chair. Like, you can just sit down and you sit against crystals, which seems like it would not be that comfortable, but I feel like it doesn't really matter for Therazane or any of the other people here that are made out of rocks and earth stuff, so I'm like, they probably don't even feel it. And then the armrests are just these big pillars with a floating crystal in it. It seems like it would be a pretty inconvenient armrest, but it's a cool looking armrest. And this might be one of the biggest thrones in the game. As you can see here by me sitting on it, it is gigantic. Like, this throne is massive. In fact, I think you could fit an entire raid team up here. But according to Wowpedia, the throne is filled with the most polished and reflective crystals in all of Deep Home, to which they continue to collect in exchange for gold they often pay to those able to collect. But this throne is so unique. I think it's really cool. It's giant, it's very vibrant and bright, and I like it a lot. So that's why it's number 3.
2.
Number 2 is the throne located in the Hunter's Hall in Frostfire Ridge in Gromgar, and it is here where the Iron Wolf leads the Thunderlord clan. And if you don't know who the Thunderlord clan is, it is the clan of orcs living in Frostfire that are known for their hunters, especially hunting down Rylax and other beasts such as Gron and Magnaron. But this may be one of the most underrated thrones. Like, when I saw this throne, I was like, this is gonna be like top 5, maybe even top 3. And I ended up putting it at 2 because I think it looks so cool. You have this big skull with the sword throne sitting right underneath of it. You got these big bones and chains kind of holding it up and framing it. Then you have the little rickety boards leading up to the throne. And I think the funniest part is if you look at the little seat cushion of all this stuff, it's just like a little feather leaf thing so you don't hurt your butt when you're sitting on it. I think it's funny how there's like all this tough stuff like bone and metal and fire, and it's like, oh, you need your little seat cushion. But I really just love the aesthetic and how cool this throne looks in this area, and so that's why it's number 2.
1.
And number 1 is the Frozen Throne. And I contemplated putting this at like number 2 and playing around because I was like, everybody's gonna guess that the Frozen Throne is number 1. But I was like, you know what? It genuinely deserves to be number 1. I mean, it holds the most notable villain in all of World of Warcraft. It's got really cool aesthetic with all the ice pillars, and it's on top of the citadel. And then you've got Bolvar, who's just sitting up there as a block of ice on the throne. And it just has such a great combination of history and lore while also being a very unique frozen ice sculpture and a throne for one of the most powerful villains in Warcraft. So like, how could I not put it at number 1? So that's why the Frozen Throne is number 1. 10. Number 10 are the Tauren mailboxes, and the Tauren mailboxes are located in the Barrens, the Stone Talon Mountains, and I believe a few other places, but funnily enough, these mailboxes are not located in Thunderbluff. And I don't really know why, because I feel like at some point they could have just swapped the mailboxes in Thunderbluff for these ones, but they were probably like, nobody cares, or maybe it's just too hard to do, like with the coding. I have no idea, but it is very weird to see these Tauren-themed mailboxes that fit the Tauren aesthetic perfectly all over the place, everywhere except Thunderbluff, their main capital city. But aside from all that, the actual mailbox itself is really cool. It is a totem. It's got a little hole for the mail, which is the mouth of the totem, which is shaped like a Tauren, right? It's got the 2 horns on the side of it, right? With the banners of the bird with the letters, like, you know, representing the mail. And then there's a bunch of cool designs on the totem, and it's you know, it's got the eyes and the nose. Like, it's literally just a Tauren mailbox, which, again, it's crazy this is not in Thunderbluff, but either way, it's a cool mailbox, and that's why it's number 10. 9. Number 9 are the mailboxes located at Gadgetson, Everlook, and Area 52, as well as a few other places, but I love these mailboxes because they're just kind of goofy, right? They seem very Goblin Gnome engineering based, and they're just these metal mailboxes that look like, you know, whatever, but they have a letter attached to them on a spring. And I really just love how the letter bounces back and forth, because you would think it would be like boing, 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 but it's just like boop, 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 boop. Right? It just feels very slow. It feels like it should be sped up 2 or 3 times. In fact, let's see what it would look like sped up. Editor Crendor, can you speed that up? Yeah, I can speed it up. Thanks, Editor Crendor. See, look at that. I think that's a lot better. Also, I've been trying to figure out what the envelope up top is made out of. I think it's made out of the same material as the spring, but it kind of looks like stone if you zoom in a bit. I have no idea, but either way, I think this is a goofy, fun mailbox. I'm glad it's in all these goblin towns, and that's why it's number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Dalaran mailboxes, and the Dalaran mailboxes have these 2 kind of thin poles, and then there's a little purple drape with a Crendor symbol and then a letter. But the big thing with these mailboxes is they have a little portal above them that has a raven delivering mail. Also, I kind of get a magical wand vibe from the top part of the mailbox. Like, it's got the 2 bright crystals. I think they're crystals. I don't know. There's some sort of magical thing, right? And it looks like they've got some energy, and then there's a bunch of engravings all over it. It looks very much like a magical wand to me. And I do think this is just a really cool mailbox. I think what I like most is it fits the aesthetic of Dalaran to the point where they actually reused it when they remade Dalaran. And I think it is very fitting, right? Like portals and magic and, you know, the Crendor branding on it. Like, everything just feels like Dalaran. And of course, there's also the Dalaran mailroom, which I talked about in Pointless Top 10 Things You Never Noticed in World of Warcraft. And that kind of relates to this, because I'm sure the mail goes from the mailboxes to the mailroom and then gets sent out all over the place. So I thought I'd give it a little shout out. But either way, that's why the Dalaran mailboxes are number 8. 7. Number 7 are the mailboxes in Aj-Kahet, and these are really unique mailboxes. They're like these obelisk mailboxes, and they got a little, you know, they got a little banner that has a picture of an envelope letter on it. But the big thing is they have a bunch of scrolls that you stick into the mailbox slots. But there's also a bunch of scrolls that are just scattered about. So I don't know if the people that run the mail here just don't care. Maybe they're not very organized. They're just like, whatever. And I do also think it's funny that everything here is a form of a scroll, right? But they've hung the banner with an actual envelope on it. So I don't know if, like, you know, the Horde and the Alliance came to him like, listen, we know you use scrolls here, but you're going to put an envelope on your mailbox so that everybody knows what we're talking about, all right? And they're just like, but we use scrolls. And they're like, you're putting an envelope on there, all right? But aside from all that, this is a really cool, unique type of mailbox. There's nothing else really like it in the game, and if there is, I missed it. So that's why the Aj-Kahet mailbox is number 7. 6. Number 6 are the Volparen mailboxes, and the Volparen mailboxes are located in numerous spots where the Volparen are in Vol'dun. And I think my favorite part about these mailboxes is actually just the vulture up top that's like sitting on top of a little perch thing guarding the mailbox. So if you try to steal any mail, he's gonna probably just beat you up or peck you with his beak or something. I don't know. Also, just like the Aj-Kahet mailbox, we have a picture of an envelope or a letter that's hanging on this mailbox, but most of the mail that's gathered up is just scrolls. Like, I feel like we should just change the picture of the envelope letter to just be a scroll at this point. But yeah, then we have the actual Volparen mailbox part, which is a Volparen tail that is hanging on a rope that you put these scrolls into, which, now that I think about it, that's kind of weird that the Volparen are using their own tails to put letters into? Like, I didn't think about this at first, but it does feel kind of weird that they're putting mail into tails, which are like a part of them. However, I did just look this up, and apparently there's numerous people being like, why are there Volparian tails hanging on the caravans and stuff like that? Nobody asked about the mailboxes, mainly why is it on the caravan? And it seems like the number one answer is it's a sign of respect for those that they've lost, which I can see that, but then why are we putting mail into them? I don't know. Either way, I think they're pretty cool still, so that's why they're number 6. 5. Number 5 are the Amirdrasil mailboxes, and I really like these mailboxes because they're very unique. So the base of the mailbox is just a tree. It's like a little tree that's wrapping around this, I don't know what you would call it, like a little house. It almost looks like a little house. It's got like this metal framing all over and then dragon scale shingles up top. And then it's got like a door on the front, like this wood paneling, and then it's got a little mail slot. And then on top of all that, there's like necklaces and jewelry hanging off of this mailbox. And then there's obviously the engraving of a letter or envelope on the wood paneling door. And then up top, it looks like there's some fancy metallic version of a modern deconstructed take on an envelope. But yeah, I think what I like so much about this as well is it's combining two worlds. Like we have Amirdrasil, we have the Night Elves and nature and the trees and stuff like that, but we also have the Dragon Isles. And so we have like this Dragon Isle aesthetic meets this Night Elf aesthetic. And so it's like they both came together to just create their own cool version of a mailbox. Just like the same way it's like fusion food, right? Like two cultures get together and just create some cool food. They did that, but with a mailbox. And so that's why the Amirdrasil mailbox is number 5. 4. Number 4 are the Ardenweld mailboxes, and these are really cool mailboxes because they're shaped like acorns. I think they're supposed to be acorns. That's the vibe that I got, and they're like a little tree that sprouts up, and then they have an acorn top, and they even got like a little acorn hat type of thing where you put the mail into the little slot below the acorn. It's got little handles that are like branches on the side. And then I really love the big leaf on the front of it that has the envelope letter that's like glowing, almost like it's a star or part of the sky or something. I just think that looks really cool. But once again, they're just putting scrolls in the mailbox. Why are we putting the envelope letter on this thing when everybody's just using scrolls, right? Like just put a scroll instead of an envelope. I'm gonna keep hammering this point home because I think it's extremely important. These people are not using envelopes. They are using scrolls. But anyway, scrolls and whatever aside, this is a really cool mailbox. I love the aesthetic. I love the theming of it. It fits Ardenweld perfectly, and I just think it's really neat. So that's why the Ardenweld mailbox is number 4. 3. Number 3 are the High Mountain Tauren mailboxes, located in, you guessed it, High Mountain. And to me, these are just really updated, cool versions of the previous Tauren mailboxes that I mentioned because, you know, they're still using that totem pole style with the mailbox, but they're sitting on a rock. And then they have these big wooden antlers coming out of the sides of it as well. And then the antlers got these little banners showing the envelope or letter. And I really do love the aesthetic and the theming of these mailboxes to fit High Mountain. Like when you see this mailbox, you instantly will think that's a High Mountain mailbox, right? Like you see the totem, you see the antlers, you see the rock base, and you just go, oh yeah, that's probably High Mountain, right? And I think that's one of the things that bothers me about the initial Tauren mailboxes not being in Thunderbluff. I'm a big aesthetic and, theme person, right? And so I'm like, this belongs in Thunderbluff. Why is this not here? And so the fact that the High Mountain Tauren mailboxes are in their major cities and all over the place, I'm like, hey, you know what? Good job, High Mountain Tauren. The mailboxes are cool. They're themed well. They fit the style, and that's perfect. And so that's why the High Mountain Tauren mailboxes are number 3. 2. Number 2 are the Tuskar and Niffin mailboxes. And these mailboxes are just very simplistic. They are a bag of mail that is strapped to either a tusk for the Tuskar or a big rock with a stick sticking out of it for the Niffin. And I do believe the Tuskar did this first. You can see here that back in Wrath of the Lich King, they had this mailbox. It's been updated in Dragonflight, but it's, similar concept. There's the big tusk. It's got the bag strapped to it. And they're like, hey, if you got mail, just put it in the bag, right? Undo the rope, put it in the bag, you're good to go. And I think what's so cool about that is I like to imagine the Niffin met the Tuskar and they were like, dude, this is a fantastic way to do your mail. We need to do this. And then they just went and got like bags. Maybe they asked the Tuskar where they got their bags. They just like strapped it to rocks and sticks and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, this is great. And I really appreciate that. Sometimes the most simplistic of answers are the best answers. And so that's why the Tuskar and the Niffin mailboxes are number 2. 1. And number 1 is the Uldum mailbox. And this is actually a really cool mailbox for a few reasons. First of which, it is the only mailbox in Uldum. And it was actually hot fixed in after the expansion had already launched. People were like, there's no mailboxes in Uldum. I can't get my mail. Where do I get my mail? And then they eventually just hot fixed in this mailbox. So they just like designed up a mailbox that fit the Uldum theme and then put it into the game. Like, there you go. And I actually love it. It's got like little letter slots in there. It's got a little canopy hat and the little mail things off the side. Like, it is a nice mailbox, but I genuinely just love the fact that there were no mailboxes in Uldum. Like, they designed the entire zone and they just forgot to put mailboxes in. And then people were like, where do we get our mail? And they're like, uh-oh. I have no idea. In fact, I found an old MMO champion thread that was like, is there a mailbox in Uldum? And everyone was like, no, there isn't one here. And then eventually someone's like, hey, it looks like they added one in. So that is actually what happened. It's kind of crazy. And it's the type of thing I love for Pointless Top 10. And that's why it's number 1. 10. Number 10 are the Flaming Goat Skull Lanterns located in the Jade Forest next to a bunch of Hosen. And one of the reasons I love these lanterns is just how unique they are. Like, you don't really come across many other skull lanterns in the game, and I love the way they look. They got the fire coming out of the top and the eyes are glowing. It's just a really cool lantern. And it's also a lantern that you don't really see very often in the game. Like, the only place I've seen this is this random Hosen camp in the Jade Forest, so it's not something you come across very often. And I'm not gonna lie, I typically try to do a cooler type of thing at number 10, even if I might consider it number like 5, because I like somebody watching the video for the first time to see a really cool thing right off the bat. So you might say that number 10 is actually a lie, but it doesn't really matter. This is a pointless list. It's a pointless top 10. It's not about the order of the things on the list. It's about the things themselves. Listen, I don't know. Somebody's gonna be like, Crendor's a liar. Shut up. That's why it's number 10. 9. Number 9 are the Tortollan Lanterns, located at numerous Tortollan areas, such as the Seeker's Vista in Stormsong, the Gloom Hollow in Nazmir, and Seeker's Outpost in Zuldazar. And I really love the glow that these lanterns emit. It's kind of this bluish, greenish aqua glow, and it just pulsates, and I don't know. I find it very relaxing and calming. I think it's really cool. And then they're almost like upside down hourglasses. It looks like there's sand falling to the bottom part, although I don't know if that's actually what's happening, but that's what it reminds me of. Although then there's also a few that look like they're in bowls or they're just kind of sitting in the water and they don't really look like they're upside down sand or anything. They're just kind of glowing bowls. I have no idea how this Tortollan lantern wizardry works. I just know they figured out a way to make it work. I also love the sticks that a lot of the lanterns are attached to. I don't know what type of wood that is. Is that like a sandalwood? It's like the type of wood they use for a lot of beach furniture and stuff like that. Somebody tell me what that wood's called, because I actually think it's pretty cool. Just like these lanterns. And so that's why the Tortollan Lanterns are number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Booty Bay Lanterns. And the Booty Bay Lanterns are literally all over Booty Bay. You can find them on random barrels. You can find them in the inn. You can find them hanging on the ceiling. Like, they're literally all over. And I love these lanterns because even though they're not the craziest, flashiest lanterns, they're the most durable lanterns. Like, this is the type of lantern you would carry into a cave because you're like, if I drop this thing, it's not breaking, right? This thing's made out of like metal and shit. It is phenomenal. And it's also got this classic WoW vibe to it. You know, it's got that old low polygon type of vibe where there's not a lot of rounded edges, just very jagged, and the actual lantern part is like wallpapered onto the lantern. I don't know, but there's something really cozy and nostalgic about that as well. Probably because it brings me back to the early 2000s of playing, 2005 World of Warcraft, you know what I mean? But on top of that, it actually really fits the setting of Booty Bay, and so that's why I decided to put these lanterns at number 8. 7. Number 7 are the Gilneas Lanterns, and these lanterns are, as you can imagine, located all over Gilneas. And what I like about these lanterns is they're just kind of basic, right? Like, they're just candles inside of a container thing, but I love the glow that they give off. I love the, I don't know what you'd call the actual container, like a vase or I guess you could just call it a container. I don't know. Never mind. I looked it up and it's called a globe. It says here that the glass form that enclosed the combustion chamber of the lantern is called a globe. Globe is in like the earth that spins around on a little thing, not like glow. I think it kind of sounds like I'm saying glow. Globe. Globe. All right, I'm done saying that. And then it says that the container that holds the lantern fuel is called the fount. So you have the globe and you have the fount. But I guess that's just referring to a glass container. Like, what if it doesn't have a glass container? What if it's some other type of material? I have no idea. Either way, these are really cool. I like these lanterns. They fit the aesthetic of Gilneas, and they're pretty cool. So that's why I decided to put them at number 7. 6. Number 6 are the lanterns located at the Utgard Keep in the Howling Fjord. And I love these lanterns because they have this cool dragon thing that's holding them up. So that is taken into account here when I was considering these lanterns. You got the big dragon head made out of wood, and then it's holding up the chain, which is holding up the lantern. And this is one of those things I just mentioned. Like, what is the outside of this lantern called? There's no glass on this lantern. It's all just metal. So would this big metal part of the lantern be called a globe still, or would it just be something else? I have no idea, but it looks cool, right? Also, the main reason I found these lanterns was because I keep running the Utgard Pinnacle trying to get the blue proto drake, which I'm almost at 500 attempts. By the time I upload this video, I'll probably be over 500 attempts. Easily the most I have farmed a mount in this game. So post a comment down in the comments section for the most amount of attempts you've had farming a mount. I'm hoping that I don't have too many more, but we're already close to 500. So either way, these are cool lanterns, and that's why they're number 6. 5. Number 5 are the lanterns located all over Valdrakken and the Dragon Isles. And the main reason I love these lanterns is the glass. Like, I love the crystallized glass look. If you look really closely, you can see it's like little ridged pieces of glass that all form this globe that surrounds the flame. I just think that's pretty sick. The flame itself is also really cool. You got the little top part, which kind of reminds me of a roof. It's almost like this lantern has a roof on top of it with little stone markings, and then you've got the little jewelry type of pieces just hanging off those roof bits. So just a really cool, unique lantern, and I think it's something that a lot of people missed while looking around Valdrakken. Also, a quick shout out, honorable mention to the Lunar Festival lanterns, which I thought we didn't record in time for this video because it went away, but then it turns out it's still there in Classic WoW, which I learned today while leveling my hardcore shaman, and these are just some cool festival looking lanterns. So that's why the Valdrakken and Lunar Festival lanterns are number 5. 4. Number 4 are the Night Elf lanterns located at numerous Val'Shara locations and pretty much a bunch of Night Elf locations throughout the game. And as you can see there, they got this little Hearthstone swirl in the middle of that lantern, and I think that's what's giving off the glow. I just think that looks really cool. The blue and the purple all kind of together, and then the top of the lantern has this kind of roof to it, right? It's got these little leaves on these pieces of wood. And it's a really cool lantern. Like, it's something that looks like it was designed with an artistic style in mind. You know what I mean? Like, some lanterns are like, make it so that it lights up the area, which is the purpose of a lantern. You know, that's a fair enough purpose for it. But this one looks like it actually had some design put into it. You know what I mean? Like the little leaves and the swirls and all the little, parts of it. Like, it just looks really nice. There's also the version of the lantern that's in the Emerald Nightmare area. So it's just very red. It's just a very red version of the lantern, but it still looks cool. It's like a different skin of the lantern. But yeah, I like these lanterns quite a bit. They remind me of almost mini houses in a way. And I like them. So that's why I decided to put them at number 4. 3. Number 3 are the lanterns at the Temple of the White Tiger in the Kunlai Summit. And these are these big, kind of chunky, metallic lanterns that are just hanging all over the temple grounds. And they've got these big flames coming up from the center of the lantern. And they're just really cool lanterns. I know I keep saying that. That's like my favorite word of the day, is just like, these are cool. These are cool. This is cool. But they are cool, all right? Everything is cool. So what if I'm overusing the word? There's also some other lanterns here, but I wasn't really sure if these were actually lanterns. They look more like incense being given off. You know what I mean? They got like some sticks in there, and it looks like a bunch of smells or steam is coming out of here. Maybe it's, I don't know. It just seemed these are more like incense stick type of things, but they're in lantern-esque containers. So I was like, hey, you know what? For this series, that's good enough for me. But yeah, back to the main lanterns. I love the bottom of the lantern. It almost reminds me of an upside down kind of Koopa shell from Mario with the spikes and stuff, like a turtle shell. I don't know. I like these a lot, and so I decided to put them at number 3. 2. Number 2 are the floating lanterns located near the Serpent's Heart in the Jade Forest. And these are also the same lanterns that appear during the Wanderers Festival, which is located next to the Turtle Beach in the Krasarong Wilds. And they're slowly drifting away from the beach and pilgrims and celebrants can be seen walking to the beach to place these lanterns in the water and wave them goodbye. And I really just love the simplicity of these lanterns, right? Like, it's just a little candle sitting inside a paper globe, I guess you would call it, right? Even though it's not glass, I'm just gonna call it a globe. And it's just floating on this little boat thing. In fact, there's a few of the lanterns that have been burned by the fire, which I think is pretty sweet. You've got all these little burn marks, and the tops of the lantern have burned down a bit, yet they're still glowing. So I like that little artistic touch they put in there. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's just the simplicity of these lanterns. It's just very peaceful to me. There's also a panda. There's kind of meditating near them. And I don't know. I just think they're very relaxing and peaceful. And I like them a lot. I think they're cool. And they're very unique. I don't see many lanterns like them, so that's why I decided to put them at number 2. And number 1 are the Tuskar lanterns, and these are the most Crendor lanterns you could find in World of Warcraft. They are literally fish that have a candle or something burning inside of them, and they're just glowing. And so the Tuskar use these fish as lanterns all throughout their towns. They also have a few other lanterns that are just kind of more basic glass-shaped lanterns, but nothing compares to these unbelievable fish lanterns. They're just easily one of the most unique lanterns in the game. I don't think anyone else is using fish lanterns. They're just cool. They stand out. There's these otters that are actually looking at the lanterns. I don't even know if that's intended, but a lot of the otters just look like they're actually staring at the lantern or something. I don't know. Maybe they think it's food. Maybe they want to eat the lantern. They also hang the lanterns on the big turtle boats along with the other little glass ball lanterns. So they use a mixture of the lanterns. Maybe they run out of fish and they just want to use the other lanterns to mix it up. But either way, these are the best lanterns in the game. I love these, and that's why I decided to put them at number 1. Number 10 is the Brewfest Keg Pony, and the Brewfest Keg Pony is a toy that summons a beer-toting keg pony for 3 minutes. And this is actually a fun play on words because there is a thing called a pony keg, which is a container for beer that contains 7.75 US gallons of beer. And even though the pony itself is not a keg, the kegs on the pony are actually pretty cool. They're like Brewfest style, and they have the little tankard of beer on them. And so the way it works is you just click on the keg pony and he gives you a beer and you drink it, and then you can click him again, and you just keep doing that over and over. And I would suggest stopping at some point, otherwise you will get sick, at least if you keep drinking it. But I don't know what else you're gonna be doing. You're not gonna just save it in your inventory. And so even though the Brewfest Keg Pony is not an actual keg himself, he does have the kegs on the sides of him, and he reminds me of Brewfest, so I had to put him on the list, and that's why it's number 10. Number 9 are the kegs of Suramar, and these are really cool. They have the moon shape on the top and I guess the bottom. I don't know which side's the top or bottom, but I feel like they got the moon on both. And they have purple and silver on the sides, and they have a silver rim, and they're very unique. You don't really see these anywhere else, and they are clearly an elven style of keg compared to many of the other kegs in the game. And you can actually talk at Brewfest to Vinter Mollylu, and she sells 4 types of wine. There's night wine coolers, boxed night wine, which I don't think I want any boxed night wine, sparkling Suramar spritz, and distilled night wine. And then I got curious and I was like, wait, hold on. What's the difference between a keg and a barrel? And so a barrel is a unit of measurement for liquids and dry goods, but a keg is a large cylindrical container used to store, transport, and serve drinks like beer and cider. So kegs are more for alcohol, while barrels can be for a whole bunch of stuff, but it can also include alcohol. But then I remember hearing about casks, and I was like, oh yeah, like a cask of wine. But then it says a cask is just a generic term for a container of fluids. So all these things are just kind of like tied together, I guess. And for the purpose of this video, everything you see is kegs. So that's why the Suramar kegs are number 9. Number 8 is the Gunpowder Keg, and the Gunpowder Keg can be found at the South Sea Freebooter encampment on the Merchant Coast in the Barrens. And I figured everybody'd see the list of kegs and be like, oh yeah, alcohol, right? And I mean, most kegs are filled with alcohol, as we learned earlier, but a powder keg is a barrel of gunpowder, and the powder keg was the primary method for storing and transporting large quantities of black powder until the 1870s and the adoption of the modern cased cartridge. In practical use, powder kegs were small casks to limit damage from accidental explosions. However, they had to be handled with care since a spark or other source of heat could easily cause the contents to deflagrate. And I actually don't know what that symbol is on the barrel. It's like a weird check mark and then a little dot. Does anybody actually know what that symbol is? Maybe I'm crazy and it's something that I can't just figure out. Like, I don't know what it is. So if you know, comment down in the comment section so I can be like, hey, thanks. person that knows. But either way, that's why the gunpowder kegs are number 8. 7. Number 7 are the kegs of mead located at the Honey Meadery in the Isle of Dorn. And not only are these kegs cool, but there's also a big keg statue thing on the front of the building with these little bees on the side of it. I love the way that looks. And there's actually some really cool stuff I learned about mead. So it says here that its exact origins are unknown, but some texts show ancient Greeks consumed a honey water mixture as a way to honor the goddess Aphrodite. That's one of the reasons it's referred to as the nectar of the gods, although more recently, Nordic Vikings celebrated battles and long voyages with mead. And it also says here that in early England during the medieval times, honey wine was an essential part of a new marriage. In fact, the term honeymoon comes from mead. After marriage, a couple was supposed to drink this honey liquid as a way to boost their fertility. I had no idea that's where honeymoon came from. But anyway, back to World of Warcraft. I actually love the way these kegs also kind of glow. They have that orange fire type of glow inside of them where it's like, you know what I mean? I think that's pretty neat. So overall, these are really cool kegs in a really cool place. So that's why the honey mead kegs are number 7. 6. Number 6 are these kegs located at this random tavern in Borealis. And I like these kegs because number 1, they do have the bees on them. So maybe these are also honey mead. I actually never noticed that in Borealis, but these kegs do have a bunch of bees on them. So I would imagine that they are filled with mead, but they could be filled with beer. Maybe the main person making these just prioritizes mead, but they also make beer and wine and other stuff. Who knows? But the big thing for me here is I love the way the kegs are displayed. Like you have the kegs that are behind the bar. You have the kegs that are just stacked up in the back. You got kegs that are just thrown into a barrel. You have kegs that are serving as the table stand for tables. And so I feel like out of all the taverns in World of Warcraft, this might be one of the top ones at making use of kegs for purposes other than just holding alcohol in them. And I think that's pretty cool. And so that's why I decided to put these Borealis kegs at number 6. 5. Number 5 are the kegs located at Half Hill in Valley of the Four Winds in Pandaria. And there's quite a few cool kegs located at Half Hill, but my favorite ones are these fish kegs. And they're these big kegs that have a metal fish top piece. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's it's like a cool decorative thing on top of the keg. And I remember seeing this and being like, dude, this looks like something that would be perfect for a pointless top 10. I just didn't know which one it was going to be. And so after thinking about which one to do this week, and I was like, you know what? It's Brewfest. I think this is the one time I have the best opportunity to do kegs. And I know I love this fish keg, so let's just go ahead and do it. The other one I really like is this decorative cork that is a panda head. So you can see that numerous other kegs have corks in them, but this one specifically just has like a decorative panda head cork, which I thought was really cool. I've never seen that before. Or I guess I did see it, but I never really fully noticed it. But that's the point of Pointless Top 10, to find all those little things, and that's why they're number 5. 4. Number 4 is a bit of a weird one, but it is a combination of Gluck Gluck, the banana beds, and the cask barrels located near Gluck Gluck. So this is kind of me tying together Pointless Top 10 innkeepers, beds, and casks all into one, because there's so much located in this corner that blew my mind. So number 1, there are banana beds here. These are just straight up banana beds. There are bananas that make up the beds. You can see each bed is made up of 3 bananas. I can't believe I didn't notice this. This should have been in Pointless Top 10 beds, but I just never noticed. So now I'm putting it here. There's also Gluck Gluck, the innkeeper, who I probably would have put on Pointless Top 10 innkeepers last week because he serves Lorkin Icken Ookt Tick Flipper, the Florkin Juju Juice, and the Wicket Weak Sauce. And when you talk to him, he says, "Want to drink Wicket?" And you can say, "No slurp, Wicket needs a blickin' frick frack stick and pitch," or "Who do I have to grook to get a jeekin' slurp around here?" Dude, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say those things on YouTube, but for the sake of this Pointless Top 10, I will. And then, of course, the main part of this video, which is the kegs. And there's some normal kegs around, but then there's one of them where you click on it and a hosen monkey just pops out of it and starts banging you on the head, which I guess is a reference to monkeys in a barrel, or maybe it's a barrel of monkeys. I don't know, but either way, that's why all these things are number 4. 3. Number 3 are all the casks located at the Thunder Brew Distillery in Keranos. And one of the really cool things here is that they actually have a massive cask on the roof of the building, and then the sides of the building also have these big casks that are just kind of like built into the side of the building. I don't know how they did it, but it looks really cool. And then on the actual inside, you do have some casks that are built in behind the bar. You got some casks in the basement. I know there was always that quest you had to do as a newbie dwarf that had to go down here and get a cask. And I noticed that you could even see the cask from the outside on the inside of the walls, which I thought is pretty neat. Although I don't know how good that is for insulation, but I doubt the dwarves care that much. They also got the fire going, so, you know, it's warm in here. And I also learned from doing Pointless Top 10 Taverns that Chen's Storm Stout actually visited here once. But yeah, this is just a really cool place with the kegs built into the building and on top of it, and then just a whole bunch of kegs all over the place. You got the really cool hammer and mountain symbol on the front of the keg too, which I thought was really neat. I forgot to mention. So for all those reasons, that's why the Thunder Brew Distillery kegs are number 3. Number 2 is a combination of more Pandaria kegs. So first we have these kegs that are wrapped around with these big red ropes and these big metal button things. I don't know what they are, but I thought they looked really cool, and they're all over the town of Mistfall, where there is a quest where these little forest dudes were like stealing all the kegs, and I think it got removed from the game, or I did a quest where I can't do it anymore, but whatever, it was there. They were stealing the kegs, trust me. And these are actually the same kegs that are located at the Pandaren tent area at Brewfest, so I feel like out of all the kegs, these are the kegs that the Pandaren choose the most, because these are the ones they're bringing to Brewfest, man. They're bringing their best, their A-game kegs to the Brewfest. In fact, you can even see on the Brewfest kegs, they have a bunch of art stuff carved into them. There's like a building and the wind. That looks really cool. And then on top of that, I wanted to include the kegs at the Storm Stout Brewery, where all these hosen are just running around. They're throwing the kegs. They're like rolling kegs around. They're crashing into the kegs. There's like eggs rolling on the ceiling. There are kegs like built into the brewery, so I had to include all that as well, and that's why the Storm Stout Brewery and the Pandaren Brewfest kegs are number 2. And number 1 is Chen's Empty Keg, and I feel like out of all the kegs in World of Warcraft, Chen's Empty Keg is probably the most famous one. So it is a random keg you find out in the Barrens, and it just says a small placard on one of the ends of the keg says Chen Storm Stout. May your spirit be raised and always raise your spirits. And you bring this keg to Brewmaster Drone in Ratchet, and he says, "Would you like a taste of Chen's namesake? Ah, the Storm Stout is a mighty brew. Chen taught the recipe to my mentor, and my mentor passed it on to me. I'll need you to get me a few things, but the kick is worth it." And so this quest pretty much takes you all over the Southern Barrens, gathering lightning glands, Thunderhawk saliva glands, a Kodo liver, and you brew it all up and you drink it, and he's like, "Hey, I told you this stuff's got a kick. Anyway, you could also make the Trog Ale I talked to you about. It's some crazy stuff." And then you also do the same thing and make this Trog Ale, and that's pretty much it. You're just helping this guy make some crazy Chen Storm Stout alcohol. But you know what? It's pretty cool and memorable, and that's why it's number 1. Number 10 is the Bubbling Cauldron at Gromgal Base Camp, and I picked this cauldron because I wanted a basic cauldron on this list, and this is probably one of my favorite ones because I always think of this one because there's so many quests tied into it at Gromgal. It looks cool. It's got the green steam coming out or whatever it is. I don't know. And it's got the skulls already in there because there's a bunch of skull quests you have to do with this cauldron. It's located right next to Nimboya. And Nimboya is a jungle troll located here, and he's come from Orgrimmar to search for his chief's youngest son, Yenneku. Believing him to be in possession of the Bloodscalp trolls, he wants the head of their witch doctor, Nezliak the Dire, so he can force the whereabouts of his quarry from his dead lips. Ultimately, the adventurers are able to retrieve his soul, although his body is still under Zanzel the Outcast control. There's like, it's a giant quest line. There's so much stuff going on here, but I really think this cauldron's cool. You know, it's from classic WoW. It dates way back. It's got a lot of stuff tied to it. So, you know, it's not the craziest, but I think it's pretty neat. So that's why it's number 10. Number 9 is this creepy cauldron in Dire Mall. And this is one I've seen referenced a lot all over because there is a dead man impaled in it on some sort of stick or something. I don't know, but it's weird to find things like this in World of Warcraft because you don't normally expect it, but it's creepy. Like, I think ogres did this, probably that ogre right over there. But I was trying to figure out if there'd be any lore reason for this. Like, did the ogres really hate somebody and they're like, we're gonna cook that guy up, right? Or, you know, did somebody do something? Was there, I don't know. So I was looking into it and there's absolutely nothing. I think it's just the ogres got mad and they decided to cook somebody. But I did find one thing. So I was like, maybe if I look into the ogre Warcraft wiki page, it'll be something. And I found under cuisine When eating humans, ogres prefer to devour them alive due to it being fresher. When it is cooked, however, the body is cooked with the blood still inside the carcass. Night elf meat is considered as tasting horrible. On top of that, the staple diet of ogres is fresh meat. Ogres like their food fresh and are thus known to keep their prisoners alive until they are ready to serve. So those are references to the World of Warcraft official cookbook, not the strongest of lore sources. But hey, you know what? It's something. And I don't think it really explains this at all because they still are like cooking him alive. I don't know. But I think that was cool to find out. So that's why the Dire Maul Cauldron is number 9. 8. Number 8 is the Ruby Feast Cauldron, and the Ruby Feast is located in Valdrakken, and it actually has an achievement where you have to experience all of the dishes served at the Ruby Feast, ranging from lemon silverleaf tea all the way to druidic dream salad and ravenberry panna cotta delight. But that's besides the point. The main point here is the cauldron, and the cauldron's really cool. It's more of a flat cauldron as opposed to a lot of the rounder cauldrons. It hangs from these big chains attached way up in the ceiling, and in fact, the chef that's putting stuff into the cauldron, he has to stand on boxes to throw things into the cauldron. Now, I don't actually know what they're making in the cauldron, because I was looking through all the different things that you can taste, and I guess maybe it'd be lemon silverleaf tea, or maybe dragon fruit punch. It could actually be dragon fruit punch. That looks like, although I think dragon fruit's more like pinkish, right? Pinkish red. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The main point here is that the cauldron looks really cool, and it's in this big outdoor kitchen, and I think it's a really cool area. The aesthetic's really nice, and that's why the Ruby Feast Cauldron is number 8. 7. Number 7 are the Zandalari Voodoo Cauldrons, and the Voodoo Cauldrons are blue, red, green, and purple cauldrons found on the Isle of Reckoning in Kunlai Summit. And up until I made this video, I actually had no idea that this even existed. Like, straight up. This is from Mist of Pandaria, and I had no idea this was a thing. So the main thing here is that you can actually interact with the cauldron. So the Voodoo Brew is dressed like a Zandalari witch doctor. Zandalari trolls think you're friendly, dance with your fellow witch doctors. The mysteriously tasty concoction is mastery increased by 9 for 1 hour. The Hexer's Touch is attacks have a chance to hex your target, and the Maggot Slurry is you don't feel so great. But not only do these cauldrons provide fun little interactions, but they've actually got cool steam coming from each one. And after looking into it a bit more, it just seems that these are kind of pointless. But it's like how we said, inside pointless things are treasure. These are just fun little interactions that you discover out in the world. And, you know, there's no achievements, no quests, but it's fun. It's fun to explore and see little things like this and be like, wow, that was really cool. And that's why the Zandalari Voodoo Cauldrons are number 7. 6. Number 6 is the Cursed Cauldron in the Hellfire Peninsula in front of Zethgor. And this is an objective of the Bleeding Hollow Blood quest, where you boil the blood for the quest Boiling Blood. And when you use the cauldron with the blood, a large number of cursed scarabs appear, and then they scurry around, and you can just kill them. But I always remember doing this quest in Burning Crusade, and it also has that kind of cool colored steam coming out of it, much like the voodoo cauldrons we just talked about. But I love how this cauldron is just going insane. It's just like... And I always just remember doing this quest and thinking like, wow, that cauldron is going crazy, man. Like that blood is really boiling in there. And you know, it's a bit bigger than some of the other cauldrons we've seen, so that's pretty cool as well. But I'm not gonna lie, the main reason I wanted this cauldron on the list is because I just have nostalgia doing this quest. And I don't even think I like doing the quest that much, but for some reason, whenever I think of cauldrons, this is one of the quests that I think of. And so I was like, you know what? It's gotta be on the list. And that's why the Cursed Cauldron is number 6. 5. Number 5 is the Communal Pot Cauldron at the Tuscar area in the Azure Span. And this is where Big Canuck, the master of soups, does the big Tuscar soup event thing, and everyone helps him make soup, and it's a great time. I also always have to mention that it used to be master of stews, and through the power of my pointless top 10 Azure Span video back in the beta, helped change it from stew to soup based on my intense research of the two types of food. So really, I helped impact World of Warcraft in a massive way, because could you imagine Master of Stews? It would be wrong. Anyway, aside from that, we're here to talk about the actual cauldron, which is fantastic. It's got all the ropes going around it. It's got the hooks off the side. It's got the ropes that are like tying it down. It's got the fish hanging off the side too. I love the aesthetic of this whole cauldron and the whole area. I mean, just think of this big pot of soup in this ice cold environment. Everyone's like huddled up and they're like, dude, the big soup, right? This big boiling cauldron pot is just that warmth, that hearth that you're looking for, right? Did I use the word hearth correctly there? I don't think I did, but you kind of get the point. I also love the feast animation they go through because it reminds me of Monster Hunter a lot, and I'm someone that's really bad at Monster Hunter, but I always love the aesthetic of it as well, so I always appreciate that, and that's why the communal pot cauldron is number 5. Number 4 is this giant cauldron in Razorfen Kraul, and I found this cauldron because somebody posted on the internet them getting stuck in it with their party in Razorfen Kraul, and I was like, dude, there's a big cauldron in Razorfen Kraul, so I went and found it. And it's actually pretty sweet. They got a bunch of lumber and wood all over. They got a little cauldron next to the big cauldron. I don't really know why. There's like a big platform that leads up to it, obviously, so they can like throw stuff in it. I don't know if one of them's cooking like a sauce and the other big one's cooking like the main thing. Like, I don't know what they're cooking in there. Just, are they going full dire maul ogre and cooking people in there? Are they like, what are they doing? So I actually looked up Quillbore eating because we may as well just look up what everybody eats at this point. And the Quillbore and the Barrens are protective of the water in the area. Even a small water source is a vast hoard of wealth to them. They have great feasts when even the slightest rain comes to the Barrens. Water is sacred to their kind because it is so scarce. So again, that really tells us absolutely nothing. So like, I don't know what they're doing. Are they throwing boars in this pot? I don't know. They're doing something with it. If you have any theories about what they're cooking in this big pot, or I just missed something, let me know in the comment section below. Maybe there's something in RFK that I completely missed for why they have this big cauldron in there. But either way, it's a really cool big cauldron, and that's why it's number 4. Number 3 is the Half Hill Market Cauldron in the Valley of the Four Winds, next to Mei Mei Ironpaw and Noodles the Hosen. And from the looks of it, it looks like they're cooking up some noodles and maybe tofu. It looks like big blocks of tofu or something, I guess, but I have no idea. But I think this cauldron looks really cool. It's got the gold plating around the outside, and I think it's more stone than it is anything else, which I think a stone cauldron is actually pretty sick. One thing I did find weird is that Noodles sells spices, sagefish delight recipe, smoked sagefish recipe, spring water, and simple flour. So it doesn't actually sell any noodles, but I guess he sells you the flour to make noodles, but I was expecting Noodles to sell me more noodles, so a little disappointing there, but that's besides the point. The main point here is that the cauldron is really cool, and then I just love the aesthetic of the Valley of the Four Winds, especially the Half Hill Market, right? You've got all the different foods all around, you've got everybody cooking, you've got the, you know, just green everywhere. Everything just feels very fresh and vibrant, and I love this area. I think Valley of the Four Winds is maybe one of my favorite places in World of Warcraft at this point. Another fun fact is that Mei Mei Ironpaw actually traveled to Iskara in Azure Span on the Dragon Isles, so she's probably helping the chef with the soup. I didn't even realize that. So a little tie-in right there, but overall, I love this cauldron, I love this area, and that's why I had to put it high up on the list, and that's why it's number 3. Ooh. Number 2 is the Cauldron of Creation in Meldraxxus, and this is where you craft a plague-born slime from in Maraleth's Cauldron. So it's the Cauldron of Creation, but it's also Plague Deviser Maraleth's Cauldron, and he says, while I know we're both eager to complete our potion, I believe the best lesson I can share with you is patience, and slimes, of course. With the help of slimes, we'll have our laboratory back in working condition. So pretty much you help him get his lab back in order, and I love that the little slimes also have their own little cauldrons on top of their head. That's one of the reasons I moved it up the list, because I was like, dude, I love the little slime cauldron guys. Then there's just big slime man chilling out. It's honestly kind of a cool quest. It's one of those things where it happened in Shadowlands, so either I forgot about it completely or I never did it. It's one of the two. But apparently Plague Deviser Maraleth is a prominent necromancer of the House of Plagues, and he was a close confidant of Margrave Stratama, who was the final boss of Plaguefall. She's the big like slime queen lady, but was driven insane by the fallout of his house's destruction and mistakenly believes adventurers to be his apprentice. But overall, I mean, this is a cool cauldron. It's got that, you know, standard cauldron vibe, very round, kind of pumpkin looking, but it's got the little gold things on it, like the gold plated, I don't know, decals or whatever you want to call them. And then I love just the skeleton hands kind of holding them up as well. I think it's a very creepy, cool cauldron. And I love the little cauldrons on the slime guys. So that's why it's number 2. And number 1 are the plague cauldrons in the Western Plaguelands. And when I thought up this list, the first cauldrons that came to mind were these cauldrons. Like, whenever I think of a cauldron in World of Warcraft, these are the cauldrons that I think of. Just these big, smoking, bubbling cauldrons held down by the chains in the farmlands of Western Plaguelands. So, plague cauldrons are giant cauldrons filled with vile toxins and poisons of the scourge. Infused with the necromantic sorcery of Kel'Thuzad, these cauldrons are constantly boiling and spewing the plague of undeath into the air, corrupting and twisting the land and empowering the agents of the scourge. Each of the cauldrons has its own unique mix of toxins and is guarded by a cauldron lord with a retinue of formidable scourge soldiers. The enchanted cauldrons were masterminded by the necromancer Hagen the Unclean. That's right, the safety dance guy. And in preparation for the siege on the Northlands, the cauldrons were moved to Kel'Thuzad's recent acquisition, the Barov Manor on Seir Darrow, Skullomance, where the plague of undeath was perfected within them. Using samples from the cauldrons, Kel'Thuzad began to poison the grain shipments exported from Anderhall, thus dooming the populace of Lordaeron to the plague. After Arthas's final purge of the region, the cauldrons were ordered to be placed in the various fields around Anderhall by Araj the Summoner to help support the Scourge forces in the area. So, actually, really interesting lore. I didn't know any of that until I read into it, but you think I would as somebody who's played WoW for like almost 20 years, right? But you always learn something, and that's what I always enjoy with these videos as well. But overall, they're just really cool cauldrons. They're very nostalgic, very memorable, and actually very lore related, I guess. So that's why the plague cauldrons are number 1. 10. Number 10 is the wall art located in a couple places, one of which is the Tomb of the Watchers in the Badlands, the outside of the Uldaman dungeon, and at the dig site at Loch Modan. And this wall art is so weird because it doesn't even feel like it belongs in World of Warcraft. Like, you look at this and it feels like an old ancient Roman or Greek wall art. Like, they're all wearing, I think, togas, and they're just standing around talking to each other somewhere. And then in this other piece of wall art, you can see these two people sitting down talking to each other, and there's some animals sitting around, and it definitely looks a bit more high definition and modernized, probably because it was added after classic World of Warcraft, so that would make sense. And I know a lot of the stuff around here ties into the Titans, so I was like, how does all this tie into the Titans, right? Some like random Greek stuff. And when I looked it up, I found some posts on Reddit that said pretty much that Blizzard decided to go with an ancient Greek theme to denote the fact that this is a very old place, and then they kind of just went with it after a while. And so if you want, you could just go into Uldaman and walk around, because there's a whole bunch of stuff like this. I just picked these specific ones because they were kind of the ones that inspired me to start this pointless top 10. I remember questing around here being like, that wall art looks really weird. And then I was like, I should do a pointless top 10 wall art. And so here we are, and that's why it's number 10. 9. Number 9 is the wall art of this ship sailing across water located in a broken lighthouse in Vol'dun. And I really just love the way they created this art. Like, all the little water waves are these little hook things, and then you've got the sun up in the top left, and you have the actual ship with these 3 little, I think they're troll people on it. If you zoom in, you can kind of see it's like troll faces on it, although it actually looks more like Koopa faces, you know what I mean? Like Mario Koopas. It reminds me more of that. So I kind of don't know if these are even trolls, but it looks cool. And I don't actually know what you would call this wall art. Let me know down in the comments section below if you know what it's called. I think it's mosaics, because it looks like it's made out of mosaics, and there's a lot of mosaics on the outside of a lot of the buildings here in Vol'dun, so I would imagine that's what it is, but let me know. And so yeah, I remember finding this when I did Pointless Top 10 Lighthouses, and then I obviously had to come back to it because I just think it's really cool. So that's why the Vol'dun Lighthouse artwork is number 9. 8. Number 8 is the wall art on the Goblin Huts located in Gadgetzin, Everlook, and pretty much anywhere else that you're gonna find Goblin Huts. And the coolest part to me is the archways that go over the doors. So you can see the wall art looks like it has a little archway. So every time you go into a building, it's like you're walking under an archway. It's really cool. And it even looks like the arch has some symbols on it. Like, you can see there's a couple symbols up there, and then it's got a bunch of weird patterns and designs. And then on top of that, you actually have a bunch of zigzaggy patterns all over the tops of the huts and all over the walls. It's just, I think it's really cool. It's something that I didn't even really notice until one day I was just walking down to the neutral auction house, and I was like, yo, that's really cool wall art they got up there. But I didn't realize that they actually put the little archway over the doorways of the huts. And I was like, yo, that's actually pretty sick. I never noticed that. And so it's always fun when you find something that you don't really notice. Also, special shout out to the penguin wallpaper in a lot of the goblin buildings. I know this isn't wallpaper, but maybe one day we'll do Pointless Top 10 wallpaper. It's still like kind of wall art, so I thought I'd throw it in. But either way, that's why It's number 8. 7. Number 7 are these weird orc goblin children that are located on the wood of the barn in Westfall. I don't even know if these are actual orc goblin children. They might just be small orc goblins that are very old. Like, I have no idea. It's just what I think of when I see them, but it's kind of weird that this is located in Westfall. This might just be another thing that back in the day Blizzard was like, this would be fun art to put in classic World of Warcraft, and they just like plastered it all over a barn. Like, I have no idea. It kind of gives me old mythology fairy tale vibes, you know what I mean? Or I guess more like folklore, right? Almost like an Eastern European folklore. That's the vibe that I'm getting here, right? On an old barn. Like, I have no idea, because otherwise I'm like, is this an orc, a goblin, some random monster? I haven't seen anything like this in World of Warcraft, so I don't know where they're getting this image from, so they must have just created it, right? But no matter the origin, I think it's pretty cool, and so that's why it's number 7. 6. Number 6 is the wall art located at the Temple of the Red Crane, which is located in the south-central Krasarong Wilds. And this is actually the home of Chi-Ji, the Red Crane, and it's one of 4 creatures known as the August Celestials who watch over Pandaria. But I picked this because I love the wall art here. There's so many intricate designs. Like, sometimes I don't even know what's going on, but I'm like, I feel like there's something happening here that I just can't process. It looks like when it's like one of those Rorschachs, right? When they show you, like, what do you see here? And somebody sees, like, an alien, somebody sees, like, something else, right? Like, everybody looks at this and sees something different. That's what it reminds me of, and I think it's really cool. But I love that there's a lot of vine artwork as well, especially these little grates. These aren't really like on the wall, but I just thought they look cool because they're like a grate that's, I guess, embedded into the wall. And there are parts of the wall art that do have little crane heads, or there's wings, or there's just a whole bunch of little crane things hidden throughout the wall and the architecture here. So it's really cool, and that's why I decided to put it at number 6. 5. Number 5 is the wall art located at Dazar Allure in Zandalar. And the style of this wall art is actually very similar to the ship Vol'dun wall art that we saw earlier, which makes sense because obviously, you know, they're pretty close together, but I love this wall art. I love that there's like a troll riding on a dinosaur. You have another troll that looks like he's shooting an arrow while riding on a dinosaur, and then you have this pterodax that's just kind of flying, and you can even see the similar waves. They kind of reuse the wave assets to be, I don't know if those are supposed to be waves or maybe clouds or something like that, but you know, you get the picture. And then there's also this one I found in a different area of Dazar Allure where there's this big Brutosaur, and it looks like there's a troll riding on the Brutosaur. It's just, I love this style of wall art. Like, I think it's really cool. I'm sure there's plenty that I missed all over Dazar Allure or maybe some other zones, so I kind of want to just go back and look for more of it, but I think it's great, and so that's why I decided to put it at number 5. 4. Number 4 is this massive wall art located all over a bunch of buildings in Mist of Pandaria, and I believe this is Lei Shen. From looking into it, it appears that he would make the most sense to be on all these murals. He is the Thunder King, if you're wondering. He's from the raid, Throne of Thunder. And he was the first emperor of the Mogu, so that would make sense. And I feel like if you played Mist of Pandaria at all, you would not have missed this wall art. It is on multiple walls. There's big versions of it, little versions of it, different sizes. Like, this wall art is all over the place, but for good reason, because it's actually really cool. Like, I love the cloud art. I love that the green glowy kind of lightning energies coming off of his hands, and all the buildings are gold. In fact, if you look at it in the dark, it looks like his hands and the stars are glowing, which is also really cool. There's also this big mural on another wall that doesn't have as much color, but it still has a lot of the greenish kind of aqua glow to it, and it looks like it's on a farm with the hills, maybe in the Jade Forest or something, which also looks cool. So some really great wall art all over Pandaria, but especially these, and that's why they're number 4. 3. Number 3 is the Emperor's Omen Wall, located in the Jade Forest. And it was actually once inlaid with jade, but over time it has fallen into ruin. And so now, with the help of Lorewalker Cho, you aid him in restoring the wall and learning of its wisdom. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually really like the wall before you restore it. Like, you get little glimpses of what it's gonna be restored to. You can see it, right? You see little hints and pieces of what's supposed to be there. But you have all these vines kind of hanging on the wall, and all this greenery and moss and shrubbery just covering everything. I just think it looks awesome. Like, I really like the way it looks prior to that, but then you actually see the art revealed on the walls. You play through the story, And, you know, obviously it looks great. I think it all looks really cool. You got the panda just sitting there meditating in nature and peace and harmony in the waterfall. Then you got the war breaking out between the pandas. And then you have the Shah of anger, or, you know, Shah of something rising up to cause chaos. But yeah, overall, this is a really great wall, whether it's before the art gets revealed or after. And I just think it's great. I also think it's a cool quest to have it get revealed along, you know, playing with the story and questing and all that stuff. So that's why I decided to put it at number 3. Number 2 is this wall art located in the Magister's Terrace in the Burning Crusade. And I'm pretty sure this is Kill Jaden. That would make a lot of sense. You know, I doubt they would put Satan into the game, but obviously we just talked about things like Greek mythology and random folklore and stuff being the game, so it wouldn't surprise me, but it's definitely Kill Jaden. But obviously it seems like it's very inspired by things like hell, right? You have all these people that are just burning in these flames and they're like, get me out of here. And they're all kind of begging to him. I don't think they're worshiping him. I think they're trying to like beg him to escape the fire and the torture that they're going through. And he's just kind of looking down at him like, I imagine he's laughing like that, right? That's how all the evil villains laugh, like, Well, similar to that. Although I will say, all the people in this image look very similar. It's not like there's Tauren and orcs and humans and trolls or everything. It's just they all kind of look the same. I have no idea. If you know anything about this, just post it in the comment section below. Somebody will be like, this is the ancient race of the Titan children or something. I don't know. Let me know down in the comment section if you know, but this picture is really cool. This is an awesome mural, and that's why it's number 2. And number 1 is probably some of the best wall art I think I've seen in the entirety of World of Warcraft. This giant mural is amazing. Like this big tentacle monster. I don't know if it's an old god. I think it is, but it's just sitting atop this temple or all these stairs, and then you've got his army standing at the base of the stairs. There's like squid people and tentacle monsters and bugs and like I think dragon or spider people. Like there's a whole bunch of soldiers, and this is actually located in the City of Threads dungeon. And so when you get to the final boss here, the fight happens in front of this big piece of wall art, and it is an unbelievable thing to witness. Like, I remember the first time I saw this, I was like blown away. I was like, this looks amazing. And the cool thing is this might actually be a hint to something that we don't even know about yet. And so maybe in the future, we'll look back and be like, oh, this is blah, 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 right? But for now, it's just really cool. And I love when they do stuff like this and they tie art into it as well. So that's why I decided to put it at number 10. Number 10 are the water wells located at Storm Shield in Ashran. And these are pretty much your basic water wells. They got the hand crank thing, they got rope, they got a bucket going down, they got a little roof over it and the stone. I was actually curious, what is the roof for? Because I always see roofs over water wells, right? And according to the internet, it says the huge roof would prevent wind-blown dust and other materials from falling into the well, such as big tree limbs, leaves, etc. And it may have had other functions, such as shielding people from direct sunlight so they could work comfortably getting water out of the well, especially during hot summer days. And it appears that the roof would also be protecting the rope from getting soaked and rotting away, because nothing would be worse than you're just, you know, wheeling the thing up with your water and then it snaps and now your bucket's down there, everything's gone, right? So pretty important. It also looks like both of these wells just have dirt in them, so maybe they already got all the water out of them. I have no idea, but you know what? They're pretty cool. And so that guy just walked through a light post. That's why these water wells are number 10. Number 9 is the water well located at the White Grove Chapel in Drustvar. And this is not too much different from the water well we just looked at. It's got some variations, like the roof looks a little more worn down or rustic, I guess you could say. That's what they always say with those houses. They're like, it's got such a rustic feel. It's like, okay, it just means it's old and worn down. It's got a lot of character. However, I do really like the area that this water well is in, so that's taken into account here as well. You got the 2 wolves just chilling nearby. There's some benches you could sit down on and look at the water, or I guess look at the water well. There's some water nearby the well. There's, you know, some trees and flowers and rocks. Like, it's a really pretty location. There's also a butterfly that keeps flying literally through the roof of the well. I don't know if it's using dark magic. There's that crazy, you know, witch magic going on nearby, so maybe it's a demonic butterfly, but hey, you know what? It's having fun, I guess, so let it fly through the roof. Maybe the roof is transparent. Maybe it's not even maybe this water well isn't even real, dude. Maybe it's an illusion. An illusion? What are you hiding? Either way, that's why the Drustvar water well is number 9. Number 8 are the classic WoW water wells, and I specifically picked the ones in Theramore Isle and Dustwallow Marsh and one in Borean Tundra, because, I don't know, they just felt like very fitting atmospheres for these water wells. Don't ask me why. It was an instinct. And they're just very basic water wells. It's stone, wood, and rope, and that's pretty much it. And so I thought this would be a good time to actually learn about what a water well is. And so it says here on Wikipedia that a well is an excavation or structure created on the earth by digging, driving, or drilling to access liquid resources, usually water. The oldest and most common kind of well is a water well, which is used to access groundwater in underground aquifers. The well water is drawn up by a pump or using containers such as buckets that are raised mechanically or by hand. I also watched a few videos on how water wells work, and I never thought I'd be learning about water wells from a World of Warcraft video, but here we are. And so anyway, these are some very basic water wells. Obviously, you know, it's classic vanilla WoW, old models, but they're still pretty cool, and so that's why I put them at number 8. 7. Number 7 is the water well located at the Golden Terrace in the Mist of Pandaria. And I guess you could say this is more of a fountain. However, I did find many wells that look similar to this one, especially wishing wells. Also, let me tell you, it is extremely difficult to find 10 different water wells. I'm surprised I even got the 10 on this list, so this is one of those hybrid fountain wells, all right? It's both. Also, there's the most important part of this water well, which is that there is a skeleton of what I believe is a gnome or some other small race in World of Warcraft that is just dead in here and has been dead for, I imagine, quite some time, if just the bones are left. And it looks like something fell on them, some sort of, some part of the well, like part of the stone slabs must have slipped off, or maybe something fell from the roof. I have no idea. I don't know how this happened. Maybe the gnome tried to pick up part of the well to like build it or deconstruct it, and it fell on him and then nobody cared. I have no idea, but it's down there. There's your Easter egg. But you know what? It's a pretty cool area and a pretty cool well, and that's why it's number 7. 6. For number 6, we're going to a bit more of a conventional water well in Mist of Pandaria, which is at the Serpent's Overlook in the Jade Forest. And I actually like this one a lot. It's got a big wheel on the side that I imagine you can turn to pull the bucket up. The bucket looks pretty cool. The actual well has a cool, unique shape to it. There's actually water inside this water well, which we haven't seen in some of the other water wells. And on top of all that, there's actually a panda woman that is coming over to the well and seemingly gathering a bunch of water and then taking it away in her little bucket or pail or whatever it is. I also think the roof is really cool with this water well. It's got the same kind of roofs that a lot of the other buildings have, so it maintains that same aesthetic that a lot of the other buildings have. So it could have just been a normal water well. Like, they could have just made something really basic, but they went a little above and beyond and made it similar to the other structures of Pandaria, which I think is pretty cool. And so for all those reasons, that's why I decided to put the Serpent's Overlook water well at number 6. 5. Number 5 are the Mulgore water wells, and these are actually really cool water wells. They almost act like a pump, like the wind spins around. I think it pumps the water up and then it pours out into the little area that you can see right there, but there's no actual water coming out, which I think would be cool if they updated it to have that, but you know, whatever, it's still pretty cool. And these wells have been used as sources for mystical well stones and vision quests and a whole bunch of other stuff, but they were taken over by the Venture Company, which tried to control the water supply and poison it and everything. But you end up cleansing the well as part of these quests, and then they're good to go. In fact, I think this is one of the only quests in the game that revolves around water wells, so that definitely bumped these up on the list, on top of just being really unique water wells in general. Plus, I'm just a big fan of tar and stuff and Mulgore and all that. But really, though, it'd be cool if these water wells actually had water coming out of them. It's not going to happen, but it would be cool. But anyway, that's why the Mulgore water wells are number 5. 4. Number 4 is the water well located in Borealis. And I picked this water well for a few reasons. One is there is a cat up on the roof of the water well. That massively upgraded this water well, I'm not gonna lie. And then there's some buckets of water all around, so clearly the well has been used. And then there's a bunch of these planks all over, which I thought was really interesting. Like, it's a very unique location, and the water well seems to be getting used quite a bit. But it also seems odd that they'd put planks over it while they're getting water out of it. Maybe they put the planks over it so the cat doesn't get in, or like other people don't get in. I have no idea. It's actually really interesting to why there's all these planks here, and then they're still getting water out of the well and then putting them into these containers surrounding the well. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was cool. The more I think about it, I'm like, maybe I should have put this at like number 7 or something, but I'm like, hey, you know what? Nah, it's a cool water well. It's in a cool location, and there's a cat up there. That's the main thing, the cat. And that's why It's number 4. 3. Number 3 is the water well located in the Twilight Highlands at the Firebeards Patrol. And not only is this water well really cool with the griffin roof and the wings are part of the roof, that's actually really creative. Like the wings are the roof. Like, look at that. That's so cool. But this water well is actually getting use. Like all these dwarves are running to the well, getting water, and then throwing that water onto all the burning buildings. So again, kind of like the Mulgore water wells, these might be some of the only water wells actually getting use in the game. I guess there was the Pandaria woman earlier that was, you know, getting water out of the bucket, but this is a much more intense situation, I would say. And there are actually multiple of these water wells. There are similar ones at the Thundermar ruins, so that gives you a little chance to check it out without everything burning around it. And you can see that the one in the town that's fine has a little bucket with water in it, and it's kind of normal. And then the one that is in the burning town has numerous buckets all around it because they're using those buckets to get the water and toss them out of the building. So I like that little differential there. Because, I mean, they could have been lazy. They could have just reused the asset and been like, people figure it out. They're just using buckets or whatever. But no, they actually added the little extra detail, so I appreciate that. But yeah, I love this water well, especially the griffin roof, so that's why it's number 3. 2. Number 2 is Owen's Wishing Well, and Owen's Wishing Well is a small wishing well found inside the Tideview Thicket high on a bluff overlooking the Jade Forest. And the well is actually surrounded by a bunch of wishing frogs, as well as things like Chinese food containers and some birds and lanterns. And there's actually some golden coins that are lucky golden coins, and if you click on them, they'll give you the buff Made a Wish, like you tossed a coin into the wishing well. You can even see a bunch of coins at the bottom of the wishing well, which I think is pretty cool. And there's also a lootable dagger here called the Woden's Manted Shanker. And the story behind the well is actually pretty sad. It is location that's a reference to Brian Owen Wicks, who visited Blizzard Entertainment headquarters back in February of 2012 through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and sadly he passed away a few years after, so rest in peace, Brian. But it's awesome that he got such a cool tribute. And this well is actually kind of similar to the one we just looked at. In fact, I think it may be the same model as the Golden Terrace Pandaria Hub one, but obviously this one has a lot more sentimental value behind it. And I think it's actually cooler with a lot of the little, you know, lanterns and the birds and the coins and everything. I do think it's really cool, so that's why I decided to put it at number 2. 1. And number 1 is the Dalaran water well. To me, this is the most famous water well in all of World of Warcraft. I feel like everybody knows about it. They've at least walked past it like once in the entirety of WoW's existence, right? It's been, well, I guess it doesn't exist anymore. It crashed, but if anything, that actually makes it more fitting for pointless top 10. There's also this really tiny water bucket attached to a rope, and it looks way too small for this water well. I feel like they should have had a much bigger rope and bucket, but I guess that's not really the point of this water well because you know, jump into it, but still. Seems a little weird. This also might be the only water well in the game that actually has stairs next to it. I don't think any other water well I've seen has stairs that you can walk up. And I mean, obviously that's so you can go up there and fall into it, or it's at least some sort of visual cue to tell the player like, hey, you could go up here and jump down, right? But it's definitely unconventional, especially compared to all the other water wells we've looked at. And it's actually got some really cool design with all the stonework and everything. So for all those reasons, that's why the Dalaran water well is number 1. 10. Number 10 is the Dazar Allure Fountain. That is the BFA Horde capital, if you don't know what Dazar Allure is. And it's a pretty cool fountain. It's this big troll head that's got water coming out of it, and there's little plants around it. You know, it looks pretty cool. Honestly, BFA had some really cool art and really cool stuff. It was just the actual expansion that was, you know, but either way, you know, this is a pretty solid fountain. It's unique enough that it's pretty cool compared to a lot of other fountains in the game, and you know, it's not over the top, which is why it's number 10. But you know, if you're down by the docks and you're looking around and you spot this, you might say, whoa, that's a pretty cool fountain. That's probably worthy of a number 10 on a pointless list of top 10 fountains. 9. Number 9 is the Borealis Fountain, another BFA fountain, but this time we're going over to the Alliance side. And I really like this fountain. It's got a really cool design. It's in a really good spot. It's got trees in the background. You got mountains. You got the buildings, which are all lit up with the windows. You got, you know, cavalry walking by and people walking by. You got some benches. You can actually sit down on those benches by the fountain and just kind of people watch, or just listen to the water fountain or the water noises of the fountain. You know, I mean, it's a really nice fountain. You got some barrels, you got the lights. Dude, I love those hanging lanterns right there. It's really cool. And then the design of the fountain, you got this kraken. Like, oh my God, look at that. this Kraken's like holding up the whole fountain. He's just like, ah, I can hold this up forever. And you got the anchors with the shields. I think this is a really cool fountain in a really good spot. And that's why it's number 9. 8. Number 8 is the Strange Fountain, and it is kind of a strange fountain. I don't think there's any fountain in World of Warcraft that looks like this one. It is a clam or an oyster. I actually don't know which one it is, a clam or an oyster. And it's got the pearl in there, and then the water's kind of flowing over the pearl, and then I don't know where it's going. It's just the water's disappearing. Maybe that's why it's a strange fountain. Okay, oyster versus clam. I didn't know which one is which. Okay, here we go. Clam has a shiny and smooth shell, whereas oyster shell is more calcified and rough. Both are used as food in many countries, but clam is preferred due to its taste and tenderness. Besides, oysters are known for producing pearls, which clams do not. So I guess this is an oyster. This isn't a clam. There you go. That's your history fact. That's not even a history fact. There's your random fact of the day. Okay. 7. Number 7 is this fountain in Vol'dun. That's right. We have another BFA fountain. That's 3 of the 4 things on this list from BFA. But that's fine. You know, like I said, BFA actually had some really cool art in it. And these fountains are one of them. So this is one of like 3 fountains, I believe. And there's a quest you do where you have to turn the water back on because it's not flowing. So you help like repair them or something and they start flowing again. And I just like the way they look. Like if you look at that tile, it's like these greens and aquas and golds almost, and the stone on the bottom of the fountain and on parts of the sides where it like breaks off and stuff. And you have these like pillars on the side. Obviously you can just look at it. You're looking at it right now. There's like vultures up top, as you can see there, but I really like these fountains. I mean, they're very simplistic, and I think that's what I like most about them. Plus, it's just a fountain out in the desert, you know what I mean? It's kind of like an oasis. However, it gives me more of like a mall vibe. So it almost reminds me like you're out in Phoenix, Arizona or something, and then there's like an old broken down mall fountain. I don't know. I guess it's not even broken down. It's working, but you help repair the broken down mall fountain that is Vol'dun. I don't know what I'm talking about. 6. Number 6 is the Telenor Fountain, which is in Suramar, and I love this fountain. This is like such a beautiful fountain. You've got all the statues holding up this big plate. I don't know, plate, whatever it is. And the water's like hitting all the different tiers, and it's going into this little fountain pool with the stairs surrounding it. It's just like a really beautiful fountain. I actually love Suramar, and I hate questing there. But I know a lot of people like questing there, but I always hated questing in Suramar. But every time I'd go into Suramar, I'm like, dude, this place is like great. Like the ambience, the aesthetic, everything about it's really cool, but I just never liked questing there. Either way, this place is actually a cemetery. I mean, there's the gravestones back there, so it's kind of a giveaway, but some little notes on here. The cemetery is haunted by a large number of spirits, indicating that many Kaldorite dead are buried here. And despite its proximity to the Nightborn capital of Suramar, no known Nightborn dead are buried at the site, owing to Suramar's magical isolation since the War of the Ancients. So there you go. That could be some actual historical facts. Look at that. I hit you with the normal facts, now you got the historical facts. This is practically pointless top history facts. I'm a professional YouTuber, all right? 5. Number 5 is the Temple of the Moon Fountain, which technically is a moon well. So this is like a moon well fountain. So this is like a bit of a high tier fountain right here. What I love about this too is it almost looks like the water falling off of the plate she's holding up, her bowl. It kind of looks like stars, which I know sounds like, yo, it looks like stars, man. But like, it actually kind of does look like stars. And there's all the trees all around. I think it's a really cool fountain, especially in a really big kind of night elf temple like this, and it made me want to learn more about it. And so, sticking with our facts and historical facts, I read some more into it, and it turns out that this is a fountain of Haydeen, the High Priestess of the Moon, or the first High Priestess. Before the Storm Rage novel made this clarification, many players thought the statue represented Elune herself. So I clicked on Haydeen. This is all on Wowpedia, by the way. It says Haydeen was the first High Priestess of the Moon. As a child, she heard the voice of Elune. A large iconic statue of her is located at the center of the Temple of the Moon's Moonwell in Darnassus. Most first-time visitors to the Temple of the Moon believe that the white gleaming statue of a night elf female bearing aloft a basin of flowing water was Elune herself. During the burning of Teldrassil, a massive tree limb engulfed in flames crashed down into the temple. The branch fell into the bowl of Hadine's statue. The stone basin cracked and the bowl broke in two, spilling the sacred waters. The great stone tumbled down, and the statue of Hadine lost both arms. A chunk of the basin severed the statue's neck, sending its head toppling onto the screaming night elves who had sought refuge in the pool. The moonwell shattered, and its sacred waters flowed onto the grass, red now with the blood of the innocents. What the shit? Dude, I did not expect it to take that turn. Oh my god, I didn't actually read that whole thing at first. I was like, oh, this is some fun little facts about Hadine, and I read like the first couple sentences. I'm like, yeah, this will be good for the pointless top 10. And then I started reading, and then it's like it just slowly progressed into that. I was like, what? So here's a dragon statue. It's in the Jade Forest. It's at the Serpent's Heart. It's very cool. It's got a globe, and water comes off of it. And there's some floating lanterns, and it's actually just a pretty cool statue. It's just a cool dragon statue in the Serpent's Heart of Jade Forest. And there's no blood of the innocents anywhere, so that's pretty neat. But, joking aside, Mista Pandaria actually has a lot of cool stuff. Just aesthetic and architecture and environments. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff in Mista Pandaria. And this fountain, I think, is one of the things that almost goes overlooked. Because I remember it when I was questing, but I haven't thought about it in forever. Now, going back and looking at it, I'm like, yo, this is actually a really cool fountain. I'm glad I came back and found it. That's why it's number 4. 3. Number 3 is the Dalaran Fountain. This is probably one of the most iconic fountains in World of Warcraft, I would say. I think most people have been to the Dalaran Fountain. It actually looks really cool. It's got that, I think it's a sea lion. I'm pretty sure it's a sea lion, right? I'm not going to spend time looking this up. You can just correct me in the comments. But he's got water coming out of his mouth, and I mean, clearly this is in the top of the list because it involves fishing. You can fish up a bunch of coins. And then the gold coin you can flip back into the water, and you increase your odds to catch another coin by a lot. And so it's essentially a wishing well on top of being a fountain. And I think it's just one of those fountains that it feels like a staple fountain in World of Warcraft. Like when I give you a list, well, I'm giving you a list of fountains right now. When I ask you to create a list of fountains, I would think one of the fountains that would pop up in your head right away would be the Dalaran Fountain, because I think it's that iconic. And so, because of that, it's number 3. 2. Number 2 is the Telrador Fountain, and I love this fountain. I mean, part of the reason is probably because it's in Zangarmarsh, and I love Zangarmarsh. But I think it's a really cool fountain. It's got the little lily pads with the flowers. It's got the Draenei kids and the Draenei mom, I would assume, are all sitting on these mushrooms, and they're just pouring water into the fountain base. What's that called? Like, I guess the base of the fountain? I guess that's, I don't know. But I think that's a really cool fountain. I think this is something that a lot of people probably just glance over. You know, you're probably just doing quests, you're running around, and you don't really pay attention. You just kind of, you notice it, but you don't notice it. You know what I mean? And that's what I make these for. I love making these pointless top 10s so you can find things that you may have not noticed. And I love this fountain. So I wanted to look up some information about it as well, because, you know, that's what we're doing this episode. You can only say so much about fountains, all right? Telrador does not have food vendors, and for a lore-based reason. Many of the quests relate to food gathering, and because they are close to starving, food is shared among their own people, and they would not sell it to outsiders. That's actually really cool lore-wise. I never even knew that, and that's something that I don't even know if they'd put that into the game today. They'd probably just be like, whatever, just give them food vendors, but I think that's pretty neat. So that's number 2. 1.5? So 1.5 is kind of an honorary mention here for the Stormwind Fountain, and I felt I had to include the Stormwind Fountain because I was going to get rid of it, because I only had 10 fountains that I was going to do, and then this was part of the list originally, and I was like, this is probably the one I'll get rid of. But at the same time, I was like, dude, this is such a pointless fountain because it doesn't have water in it. You know what I mean? And on top of that, it's nostalgic for a lot of people. It's, you know, right in the center of the heart of Stormwind, and everybody's kind of seen it, and they've got nostalgia for it. Like, there's so many things with it, and it's so old. And you look at like the new fountains compared to this one and how much they've improved, and I was like, I need to just throw this one in as like an honorary mention. So it is 1.5, the classic Stormwind Fountain. 1. And number 1 is the Fountain of the Everseeing. And this place, this isn't like just a fountain. This is like a fountain room. This is like the mecca of fountains. There's like all these fountains all around, like pouring water. There's like water flowing in. There's like so many beautiful architectures and plants and lanterns all over. There's the fish boss sitting in the middle, because this is in the Temple of the Jade Serpent, I believe. And you have to, you know, the fish boss guy is one of the people you have to fight. His name is Wise Mari. And apparently, let's see, we got any facts? You might as well learn some facts about Wise Mari. He is the first boss in the Temple of the Jade Serpent. Wow, what a fact. Shortly before the Shah eruption, Wise Mari accepted the help of the adventurers who found his staff that was lost because of the sprites. The waters of the Temple of the Jade Serpent have been tainted by the Shah of Doubt's influence, and the Jinyu water speaker Wise Mari was tainted right along with them. He was then killed by the same adventurers, thus cleansing himself. Wise Mari appears as a ghost on the Timeless Isle, participating in the Celestial Tournament with Carpe Diem, River, and Spyrus. So, you know, not as crazy as the Blood of the Innocents, but still pretty cool. And overall, just an amazing fountain and an amazing room of fountains to be in. And that's why it's number 1. 10. Number 10 are the mechanical farmhands, which are harvest golems located at the Amber Waves in the Stormsong Valley. And I think these are really cool harvest golems. They're kind of an updated version of the harvest golem that got put in there in Battle for Azeroth. But the reason that I have them at number 10 is because I came here being like, dude, Stormsong Valley is going to have some scarecrows, right? Like, I was looking around, there's so much farmland here. I was like, there's bound to be some scarecrows. And there was literally 0 scarecrows. I was blown away. I was like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, out of all the zones where there could be scarecrows, you would think you'd find at least 1 here, right? Like, there's plenty of birds flying around. We're near the ocean. Actually, I guess I see more butterflies, but there's probably birds. I actually don't know if there's crows near the ocean, but there's like other birds near the ocean, right? They'd probably try eating the crops. In fact, according to Google, it says that crows are often in open areas like fields, open woodlands, farms, pastures, and shores. So yeah, they would be near here. So yeah, the harvest golems are cool. I like their new models. Well, they're not even really new. They're kind of the old new models, but there should be at least a couple scarecrows here. And so that's why I had to put them at number 10. 9. Number 9 is a scarecrow located in Fallhaven in Drustvar. And I put this on the list not because I wanted to show off this old classic looking scarecrow, which they are on the list, don't worry, but they have a bunch of wicker men located around here. And so in my mind, I was like, dude, why didn't they just use these big wicker men statues as scarecrows? Well, I guess that would be a little overkill, but you can make like tinier versions of it, right? But I also wanted to use this opportunity to show off these cool big wicker men because they're kind of like scarecrows, you know what I mean? But it's got like a moving head, almost like when you go to a restaurant, you see like a moving head of like a moose or something. I don't know, but it's got antlers. There's actually some birds flying around it. Maybe that's why you don't put this out there. Maybe the birds would actually be attracted to the weird wicker man thing. And you know, nothing against the scarecrow. You know, he's doing his job. He looks cool, but I'm just saying they had some better options. They could have went with those, but that's why I had to put him at number 9. 8. Number 8 is Ichabod, and Ichabod is a baby harvest golem that was obtainable for viewers who gifted at least 2 Twitch subscriptions to creators from November of 2022 to December of 2022, which you better have gifted those to me, all right? But I like Ichabod. You know, he's a little baby harvest golem. He's got a little pumpkin on his head, which I think is fun. According to the pet journal, he was tinkered with by the gnomes, which have made him far less likely to attack your knees, which is pretty funny. And so, listen, there's not that many scarecrows and harvest golems in World of Warcraft, so I was like, Ichabod's gonna make this list, all right? He's one of the most unique harvest golems in the game because he was the first baby version of a harvest golem added to the game, and I was like, you know what? I like him. Fun little guy. I gotta put him on the list, and so that's why Ichabod is number 8. 7. Number 7 are the scarecrows located at Beladar's Bounty in Hallowfall. And the reason I like this scarecrow is it's an updated version of the classic scarecrow. It's kind of got that same feel to it. They gave it a different hat, but it's very much a redone version of the old classic scarecrow. In fact, I thought this would be a great time to talk about scarecrow history. So according to Wikipedia, a scarecrow is a decoy or mannequin that is often in the shape of a human. Humanoid scarecrows are usually dressed in old clothes and placed in open fields to discourage birds from disturbing and feeding on recently cast seed and growing crops. Machinery such as windmills have been employed as scarecrows, but the effectiveness lessens as animals become familiar with structures. And apparently there's much better methods now than using scarecrows, such as aluminized pet films that you tie onto the plants to produce shimmers from the sun, or some people use inflatable tube men. So that's right, those big tube men you see at car dealers are literally being used as scarecrows. So that's kind of weird, but I guess it makes sense. But either way, that's why the Belladar's bounty scarecrows are number 7. 6. Number 6 is the Haywire Golem, located in Drustvar. And the Haywire Golem is a part of a world quest where you have to kill the Haywire Golem, and that's it. Because if you couldn't tell, it's gone haywire, right? It's actually killed some of the farmers here. At least that's what you can piece together. They don't really give you any lore or reason. They're not like, the farmers got killed by the Haywire Golem. They're just like, go kill it. Something's going wrong over there. Like, they genuinely don't tell you anything about it. But I guess you can piece it all together from just looking around and being like, damn, this golem's gone haywire. I also just really like the aesthetic of this area. You have like the farmland, but you also have the mountains in the background and the barren trees, and just, I don't know. I just think it's a really cool area, aside from, you know, the hanging bodies. But if you look past that, it's a really nice place. And, you know, the harvest golem going haywire and killing everybody. But either way, that's why the Haywire Golem is number 6. 5. Number 5 are the scarecrows located in the Valley of the Four Winds in the Mists of Pandaria. And this is definitely one of the more unique scarecrows in World of Warcraft. You can obviously tell it's from Mists of Pandaria. It has the sedge hat, I believe is what it's called. It's got some bamboo arms. It's got, the body is made out of, I think, like a bag you would store vegetables or whatever produce in. And one of the scarecrows even has a kite attached to it. It looks like there's I almost said dragon. That's definitely not a dragon. That's a crane. It has a crane attached to it. At least I'm pretty sure that's a crane. And obviously there's plenty of these scarecrows all around because the Valley of the Four Winds is loaded with farms and farmland, and there's plenty of birds flying around as well, so they got to keep those birds away. So I like Mist of Pandaria, I like the Valley of the Four Winds, and I like these scarecrows, so that's why I put them at number 5. 4. Number 4 is the Arakoa Scarecrow, located next to the Void-Touched Pumpkins in the Shadow Moon Valley. And I'm so happy we finally got a scarecrow that isn't just kind of a generic, you know, human-looking scarecrow. Like, we actually have an Arakoa Scarecrow, dude. I love this. And I remember I was flying around Spires of Iraq, and I saw these bird statue, scarecrow-looking things, and I was like, dude, it would be so cool if they used these as scarecrows. These would be the perfect scarecrows, but I couldn't find any. It was just kind of like shrines and stuff like that. Like, you can see right there's a bunch of them in the Spires of Iraq just sitting around, and I was like, I think that'd be so cool. And then I fly over to Shadow Moon Valley and I see this and I was like, there it is. I love it. I'm so happy we actually have it. It's kind of ironic because it's like a bird scarecrow to chase away the birds, you know what I mean? And so yeah, I really love the scarecrow, and I knew I wanted to put it higher up on the list because of all the things I just mentioned, and so I did, and that's why it's number 4. 3. Number 3 is the scarecrow located in Val'sharah, and it's actually just kind of a normal scarecrow, kind of like the one we saw back in Drustvar, but he's wearing a top hat and a suit. And this is a scarecrow that you can actually find in Gilneas. You can also find it in New Arathi Highlands. But I chose Val'sharah because unlike many of the other scarecrows we've seen, this scarecrow is actually actively doing its job. Although I don't know how well he's doing his job, because with all these birds flying around, there are some that are just like chilling in the fields, like chilling by the scarecrow. Like maybe they don't really care about scarecrows, but you know what? At least he's giving it an attempt. And so that's kind of why I put this guy so high up on the list at number 3. Because not only is he a scarecrow wearing a top hat and a suit, but he's actively doing his job as a scarecrow. There's all these birds flying around, so he's clearly needed there, even if he's not, you know, scaring them away, but he's trying to, and it's a very scarecrow type of scene with the dark clouds and all the corn, and I think it's really fitting for scarecrows, and so that's why I had to put him at number 3. 2. Number 2 is the Foe Reaper 4000 and the Foe Reaper 5000, and both of these are located in Westfall, although one is in the Dead Mines. And so the Foe Reaper 4000 is a rare mob that'll appear randomly every 4 to 6 hours in Westfall, while the 5000 is an elite harvest golem in the Dead Mines, and it is an upgraded model of the Foe Reaper 4000. And I thought this would be a good spot to actually talk about harvest golems in general, because nobody really knows the origin of harvest golems. Some people theorize that the goblins created them, but a lot of people speculate that the Defias Brotherhood had harvest golems built to scare off local inhabitants of Westfall so that they could run their smuggling operations. And then later on, the Alliance just started to use them for their own, like we saw in Stormsong Valley, or they're also in Borean Tundra, Drustvar, pretty much a whole bunch of Alliance farms. And so yeah, the harvest golems are really cool. They resemble scarecrows, although much deadlier than actual scarecrows, especially the foe reapers, and that's why I put them at number 2. And number 1 is the classic World of Warcraft Scarecrow. This is the one you see in Westfall. You see it all over the places of classic World of Warcraft. Elwyn Forest, Arathi Highlands, Duskwood, it's all over. And he's just got some raggedy clothes with a pumpkin head and a hat. And even if it's not the most appealing Scarecrow, I think it really is the embodiment of a Scarecrow, especially with the pumpkin head. And I'd also include the Westfall Harvest Golems here because they are probably the most well-known Harvest Golems in the game. These are the harvest golems you would see leveling up your Alliance characters at like level 12 or whatever it is, so I'd also include them as a part of this at number 1. And like I mentioned previously, you know, this is the most common Scarecrow in World of Warcraft, to the point where you can see this used in like Battle for Azeroth, and so they finally updated the Scarecrow in the War Within, and it definitely was time for an update, but I still appreciate the old one and the harvest golems, and so that's why they're number 1. Number 10 is the forge at the blacksmith at the Arathi Basin, and I think before we even get into all this, we need to define what is a forge, because when I was doing this list, I was looking at some furnaces, and I was like, well, is a furnace really a forge? And it's not. Typically, a furnace is a big oven that has a closed door, while a forge is generally used for metal work, and it's an open fire source where you can place your metal into it and heat it to a temperature and forge it into shape. So you can't really do that with a furnace. So if you look in the background there, that is a furnace in the Arathi Basin. But if you have that big fireplace in there, then that is actually a forge. You know, I actually learned that. I didn't know the difference between either one, and it took a little bit of Googling for me to actually find that, but I love the Arathi Basin blacksmith, and I was like, yo, this would be a cool forge to have. And it's not even so much the forge itself that I think is cool, but the actual entire blacksmithing area more so than anything, right? I've always loved the Arathi Basin blacksmith. I think they did an awesome job updating it I think it's got updated in BFA, and I don't know, it's a very aesthetically pleasing area to be in, right? And so for that reason alone, I had to put it at number 10. Number 9 is the Obliterum Forge, and this is a forge built by the Demon Hunters in Dalaran, which can destroy epic items in order to gain Obliterum Ash, which could then be combined in order to create Obliterum. But I don't really care about that. This is mainly because the forge actually looks really sick. It's got these big demon horns, and you might look at it and be like, Crendor, that looks more like a furnace, but the front of it does open up, so I guess that would allow you to forge your weapons and stuff, but as of patch 9.1, it can no longer be used, so it actually doesn't open up anymore. However, this also is like a forge that destroys epic items, so you're not really forging items in this, but I guess you're maybe forging epic items but no, you're burning them into ash. Listen, I don't even think Blizzard knows what a forge is. Maybe nobody knows what a forge is at this point, but it's called the Obliterum Forge. You know what? It looks cool. It's got the crazy green glowing eyes and fire in its mouth, or fellfire. I don't know what it is, but it looks pretty neat. I don't know if it's actually a forge, so that's why it's number 9. Hey! Number 8 is the Rune Forge, and the Rune Forge, I think, is our first real forge that we found. Or put on this list, I guess. I've found all these already. I don't know why I said that, but a rune forge, according to Wowpedia, is a special type of forge used by Death Knights to emblazon their weapon with runes. A rune forge is required to modify any runes already in your weapon done via rune forging. So there it is. You literally can forge your weapons with these rune forges, and they fit the bill, right? They got the open fire where you can stick the sword in, and that's it. And honestly, they're really cool. You know, these are from Wrath of the Lich King, obviously, and I don't want to judge them based on their graphical style because, you know, it's an anvil inside of a forge looking thing that's a skull, you know? And I mean, for the time, it was pretty cool, but nowadays it would be a lot different, probably better graphics, better flames, better everything, but you know, there was still something nostalgic about it. I think everybody remembers making a Death Knight, going to this rune forge, forging your weapon, and being like, yo, I can put like runes in this and stuff. Like, it was just fun. I think when you think of forges in World of Warcraft, this is definitely one of the forges that stands out, right? I mean, they have rune forging in Hearthstone, rune forges in Naxxramas, there's updated rune forges. Like, this was a staple of forging in World of Warcraft, and that's why it's number 8. 7. Number 7 is the Forge in Orgrimmar, and this one's actually really cool and unique because the Forge is not a flame you put the fire into, it's just the lava surrounding the entire room. So if you want to forge some weapon, you just dip it into the lava around the room, and it's really cool because then they got the water right there, right? So you put it in the fire and then put it in the water, and it's like psh, like they do in all the shows and movies or whatever it might be, but or real life, I guess, when they're forging stuff. But I just love this one because it's unique, because whenever you think of a forge, you think of, like we just saw, the rune forge, like a container with a flame inside, and you put the sword or whatever it is into that flame, and that's it. But this is just like, the orcs have gone crazy, man. Like, they're like, what if the floor was a forge? And they're like, yo, right on, man. Like, they might have been listening to the trolls a little too much. Like, yo, what if, like, the forge was in the floor? And they're just like, yeah, this guy smoking a bunch of weed is right. What if the forge was in the floor? And then here we are. And it's awesome. So I really wanted to put this one on the list because of how unique it is. But I also wanted to use this moment to give a shout out to the Stormwind Forge, which was the old Orgrimmar Forge, and just the forge of cities, right? Anywhere you went that needed a forge, this was the forge that was there. Just this little tiny classic WoW forge, and I was going to put this on the list, but something cooler showed up, and I was like, well, I got to put this on, so I wanted to give it an honorable mention anyway. Actually, there's multiple forges here. There's this other old forge as well, so I guess shout out to the old school forges for being basic but necessary. And I figured this would be a good spot to put them in since they're part of like a city and it's Orgrimmar, Stormwind, you get it. So that's why these are number 7. 6. Number 6 are the Soulsteel Forges. And I know what you're thinking. Shadowlands, the Maw. Somebody's getting post-traumatic stress just from looking at these, but that's besides the point. We're looking at the art, the aesthetic of this forge, and it's awesome. I think if rune forges were designed today, they would look a lot like this, right? Like, they have the rune forges on the side, they have like swords for teeth, like, come on, they got the glowing eyes, the flame is gigantic in there. Like, these are really cool forges. You know, these are the forges you'd go to do the daily ingot loot quest, so that's right. But you know what, going back to the Maw when you don't have to do anything is a lot more fun. Let me just say that, all right? And you can kind of just appreciate more of the stuff there for its artistic quality. And this is one of the things that I was like, yo, like back when I had to do these dailies and then I stopped doing them because I didn't want to do them anymore, this place sucked. But when you just go there to appreciate what somebody designed and put into the game and you don't have to really do anything with it, it's fantastic. And so for that reason alone, these Soulsteel Forges are number 6. 5. Number 5 is the Forge of Souls, and I knew I had to put the Forge of Souls on the list because this is an actual dungeon that is a forge. So I was like, well, this is going on the list because not only that, but it's also pretty cool looking. I mean, like, for the time of Wrath of the Lich King, it almost looks like it could be out of Shadowlands, you know what I mean? Because that's how good this place looks. But I was thinking, well, what do they do with the Forge of Souls? Are they making soul weapons or something? So I don't know, but I was reading more into it. Apparently, the name for this instance might be inspired by the Forge of Souls of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, which is a workshop which crafts the unholy weapons of demons, which I think would make a lot of sense because a lot of World of Warcraft is just inspired from Warhammer. In fact, a lot of Blizzard products are just inspired from Warhammer. And according to Wowpedia, the Forge of Souls is a massive production facility that contains soul grinders. And I was like, okay, well, are these soul grinders grinding up souls and then making these soul weapons or something? But all the lore that I read doesn't really talk about what it does. But in Shadowlands, it would be revealed that the Forge of Souls' true purpose was to extract the world soul of Azeroth through Icecrown and Torghast into the sepulture of the First Ones, where the Zolval, the jailer, intended to use it for the machine of origination to rewrite reality. But that doesn't really make sense to me, because forges are for forging weapons, right? Or for forging, I don't know, something. So what's he forging? Is he forging the world soul? I don't even know if you can forge a world soul. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna say that Arthas made this place to forge some cool undead weapons for his army from souls. That sounds cool. I think the dungeon's cool. This forge is awesome. It's number 5. 4! Number 4 is the Colossal Forge, and this is actually the forge that I forgot about and that I had to replace something on the list with because I thought it was so cool. So I was trying to complete my Traveler's Log. I had to kill 10 more raid bosses. I was like, you know what? Let's just go to Ulduar. So I go to Ulduar and I was like, dude, the Colossal Forge. How could I forget about this place? Like, it is this massive, some might even say colossal forge. And Ignis, the Furnace Master, is guarding it. And he is a giant fire construct that was created by Loken, and after his defeat in Ulduar, the Titan Keepers brought him back, and he is now working again in Ulduar's furnace. But the main point here is that this forge is awesome, right? It's just giant fire going on in the background. There's these big snake golden, I don't know if they're snakes or eagles or something. They're an animal head, and it's got the molten lava just pouring out. And, you know, Ignis himself, like, has a built-in forge. He's got, like, a cup of lava around him, so he can just, like, forge on the go. Like, this guy's awesome. And I'm glad I stumbled across this forge when I was doing my mount farming / traveler's log, because I would have been upset if I would have found this later on and been like, are you kidding me? This is a colossal forge I didn't put on the forge list. But then it would have made it into the pointless top 10 things I forgot to put in the pointless top 10s list, which, you know, that'll happen eventually. And that's number 4. 3! And number 3 is the Thunder Forge, and I picked the Thunder Forge here because I love the astral lightning look that it's got going on. So the Thunder Forge is found on the Isle of Thunder, and it was built atop of ancient Titan machinery and powered by the Fist of Ra-Den and the High Keeper's Ward for thousands of years until some other stuff happened. But pretty much, it's a really cool old Titan forge. I love the look of it. It's got that Pandaria aesthetic, which is also really fun. I think it's just really cool to look at and be in and walk around. However, a lot of people did not like the quest that was related to this back in the day. Pretty much you had to help Rathian, and he was walking around trying to work this thing, and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing, and you gotta like fight off stuff, and a lot of people died all the time, so a lot of people don't like this place, but I think if you go back now and you just forget about that quest ever happening, it's a pretty nice forge. It's got the various anvils, it's got the lightning shooting down from the giant ball up top, it's got the buckets of lava, it's got pretty much everything you'd expect to find at a forge, so there's really not much else for me to say. I couldn't find that much more on it, but that's why it's number 3. 2! And number 2 is the Great Forge of Ironforge, and I feel like you had to know Ironforge was going to be on the list in some way, but the Great Forge, according to Wowpedia, is the heart and namesake of the dwarf capital of Ironforge. It was the first part of the city to be built by the early dwarves who first settled under Ironforge Mountain. The rest of the city grew around it and consequently named Ironforge in its honor. The Great Forge never shuts down. It's a loud, hot, and cheerful place serving not only as the physical center of the city, but also the central part of city life. Most citizens regularly pass through the forge, while visitors come to admire what is happening there. At the center of the Great Forge is the Great Anvil, where most of the best dwarven blacksmithing trainers can be found. Ringed around the Great Forge are several foundries pouring molten slag and a great deal of shops and guild offices, including trainers, etc. Another couple cool facts about it is that 2 bells were created here as a token of friendship, and the dwarves sent one to Lordaeron and the other to Stormwind City. It was also here upon the Great Anvil itself that the legendary blade Ashbringer was forged by King Magni Bronzebeard. So I'd say this is a pretty notable and historic place in World of Warcraft, and that would make it one of the most notable and historic forges in World of Warcraft, and that's why it's number 2. 1. And number 1 is the forge in Utgard Keep. Now, we've seen some forges today, right? We've seen a decent amount of forges, but look at this thing. This is like a backfired forge. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to forge your weapons in this thing, but it is going insane. And they're just kind of chilling, like, yay, you know. Forge is just doing its thing. It's just shooting out massive flames, and we're just working by it. You know how it is. And, you know, when you actually do the dungeon, you have to kill them, and then the flames go away. But prior to that, this thing's just, it's going crazy. Like, this is this is the most insane, intense forge I think I've seen in World of Warcraft. And it's also just a really cool room. It's got the big water troughs. It's got the anvils that have wolf heads on them. It's got the air pumpers. I don't know what they're called, but they're, you know, blowing air into the forge. It's just an awesome forge, and I had to put it at the top, and I was like, you know what? This deserves to be number one. And that's why it's number one. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this pointless top 10 compilation video. If you want more top 10 compilations, I'll put a couple up on the screen. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Okay? Okay. See ya.